the whole thing. Got myself a treat. All right, good afternoon. It is 1:06 on June 17, 2026. This is the first of several budget workshops, day one. Got the full council here at 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint. Got some department heads here, Ollie, Quentin, legal, Zach, Corey, obviously Gavin, and Sarah and Cheryl. Before I hand it over to staff, I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much to all the staff, councilors. This budget that we brought to you represents about 4 or 5 iterations of work that staff have done. And working with me and working with Sarah, just a ton of work to bring to you a budget that we feel represents the critical areas and priority projects for the city. We look forward to letting them walk through them today and explain them to you. And then in subsequent meetings, this will be the budget that you will work with to deliver your final budget. So thanks for all making the time today. And without further ado, I will kick it over to Sarah, who will walk us through our itinerary and our agenda. And just for the record, all council members are present.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the agenda is the strategic plan, short-term organizational factors, and long-range plan. We're still in the middle of doing our strategic plan, so I do not have updates yet on that. However, it is on day 2 as well, and we hope to have and present that at that time. So we will skip past that one for now. And then I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to start with the fiscal well-being of the city and just some whole overview of the budget itself, and then kick off and give it to the actual directors to go over their detailed budgets. The first thing I want to go through is our calendar, a budget calendar timeline. And the in red there is where we are at currently. We have the first budget workshop that we'll be going through today. We have the second one scheduled for the 1st of July. Then we will come back on the July 15th and go through any additional questions. My ask is that today and the next budget workshop we go through and really explain what's in there. And then you guys are able to hopefully send us emails with questions, CC me on that to the individual directors, and then I'll accumulate them all at that July 15th meeting and present that so the public can see what the questions are, and we go through them at that time. That sounds good. So hopefully not too many detailed questions today. Of course, you can always ask them, but I don't want to get off topic too much. And then going past that, the 15th, that is when we approve basically the publishing for the public hearing notification at that meeting. And then it will be published twice in the paper. Any additional questions and basically moving around budgets, if there is any of that that's needed, at the first meeting in August. And then the public hearing is on the August 19th. Now, by law, we have to have it done by the first meeting in September. So if we needed to, we could always postpone or move it to that if we absolutely had to. We like to schedule it that meeting before the August 19th so that we do have that leeway just in case we need that.
And Sarah, just sorry to interrupt, but which one is the maximum, the date we can adopt our maximum budget can only go down from that one?
That is the July 15th. That is the public hearing, the publish of the public hearing.
Yeah, so for some of our new council members, if it's not clear at that point, the budget can only go down. So that's when you'll adopt the maximum budget we can move forward with.
And in the past, we adopt the maximum, and then after that is when we go through and any basically anything that needs to be moved around or wants to be moved around, we talk about that at the next meeting. So typically it is the maximum, and what's published in the paper is basically by fund at a high level. It's not getting into the details of what's actually in the detailed budget. So that can always be moved around, and that's what we did last year. So, and again, it's not that part is not required by law. We can do some moving around in that meeting before we publish. It's up to you guys, but that's just worked well in the past.
And that was July what again?
The July 15th.
And Sarah, just one more other thing, Councilwoman Rowland Council, I think Sarah mentioned it, but we do have another workshop scheduled for July 1st.
Yes, yep.
Yes, at 1 to 4, same location.
All right, so today, this is also in front of you was a handout that will include both the budget workshop timelines and what we're going to cover. And today is day one, and this is what we're going to cover today. And in that workbook, it's kind of a different format this year. Typically in the past, well, several, probably 8 years, it's all been electronic. This year, we also did a printout for you guys. And in that has, so you can follow along, not only in the pages attached, but then also I will be pulling up and showing you where you can find that in the electronic workbook as well, or the electronic budget book as well. Now I wanted to go through at a high level the citywide, basically the fiscal well-being of the city. This is showing the citywide fund balances and net positions of the city from 2021 through 2025. These are all from our audited financial statements. And as you can see, the different funds here are, this is basically the ending fund balances and net positions. If you need more details on these, they can be found in the page 19 and page 23, or by coming and seeing me, I can go through in detail what makes these up. Start with the water fund. The net position of water fund has grown from 15 million to about 19 million. You can see the different buckets of money for what that is. The capital improvements, I wanted to explain the 2021, why the difference that moved from the unrestricted was almost 12 million and the capital improvements is 1.5. Every year we look at and readjust. If the unrestricted is getting too high, we move that into capital improvements or capital reserves. And that was a rebalancing basically in 21. That was presented to you guys during that budget, and you guys had or approved that to be moved over. At this point here, now we have our unrestricted is actually growing again. However, this year we do have several projects, and this budget the unrestricted will be used this year for some of those capital projects. So after this year, we'll probably look at the rebalancing again if it's needed. At this point, I'm not suggesting that we do. Wanted to show, actually going back here, you can see it's growing. And the main reason for that is from one time, the expenses being less than the revenues. So that's actually providing actual extra cash or extra money that is being put into the reserves. I wanted to point out the 2022, we paid off 2 water bonds. That's why the expenses were higher than revenues. One thing that this does not include is the capital contribution. So every year at the end of the fiscal year, the developers in town, if they are contributing new construction, so if they're putting in roads, they're putting in sewer mains and water mains and any infrastructure that they put in and then given to the city to take over and to maintain, that is considered a capital contribution. I do not include this in this number because really that skews, that's not real cash coming into us. It is revenues that we have to book on the books because it's a financial booking, but I've excluded that from here because in some years it can be $1 million, $2 million, and that really throws off the numbers here. Wastewater fund net position, it has also grown from 13 million to 22 million. You can see here this on the next slide, I'll show you the main reason for this one, but you can see that the unrestricted again, and this is, I'll go to the next one. So in 22, 23, we implemented our new rate structure. Before that, we hadn't had rates, our rate study had not, I think it was 15 years, 10, 12 years since we had done a rate study. So our expenses were outpacing our revenues at that point for this fund. When we implemented our new rate structure, at that point, we were anticipating going out for a bond and loans at that point. So the reason why you're seeing the revenues go up much higher than the expenses at this point is because we have not taken on that new debt yet. However, we will be this next year. So the good thing about this, what it's creating though, is it's creating that extra cash flow to be able to go out for more bonding. Once we get done with this, the new loan that we got from the state, this will give us a good cash position to actually go out and get a good rating from the bond ratings and provide us with that cash flow. So again, here's the revenues over expenses. General fund, that one as well has gone from 13 to 22 million. I'll get into what the assigned is a little in the next slide. But the unassigned is basically that's the fund balance that's growing from the revenues over expenses. And I'll go into a little bit of that in the next one as well. The assigned fund balances, per our financial policies, we have an operating reserve, an emergency reserve, and a construction reserve. And as you can see, they have certain percentages that per that fund or per that policy that they can be at. So what this is doing is that they've been increased to be at that max amount of the emergency and the operating reserves. The construction reserve is in place for the Sura downtown project. So once that is done and complete and we have been paid all the way back from the Sura for that project, this will be released. And this was part of in our strategic planning. We talked a little bit about making a general fund reserve for fixed assets and for asset replacement, basically. And this is that balance I was talking about during that is going to be available once that's paid off in 28, 29. That will be able to go into that if we desire, if that's what we want, or go for one-time asset replacement or whatever's decided at that point.
And just a comment there, whoever's mayor in 29, that's going to be pretty exciting. It's not too frequently that the city has $4 million to allocate to like unrestricted, basically. So it's going to be an exciting year for whoever's mayor and council.
Yes, for sure.
Sarah, can I ask a question? Is that downtown phases 1, 2, and our third phase, or is this just for the final phase?
So this was set aside for all phases. And so phase 2 was just actually paid off last, I think it was last fiscal year, because we had a loan of about 2 million that we gave, or 3 million that we gave to Sura, and they slowly paid it back over I think 3 years. This was in anticipation that we were going to do them actually back to back, and we didn't. So that's how come it's just been sitting there waiting for us to get going on it. So
Thanks.
all right, and then this is the general fund actual revenues to expenditures. And this is what's causing or creating that unrestricted fund balance. And I wanted to go through and give you a couple of reasons why this one, and I know I did this last year as well. So the main reason for the last 3 years for the revenues being so much higher is our investment earnings. The investment rates we have gotten over the last 3 years have been unprecedented, and it's been holding on for a very long time, much longer than I've ever seen the market hold out on on not stocks, but on just these types of investments. So anyways, that I do not anticipate. I keep saying this every year. I don't anticipate that to keep going. Of course, we want it to, but it's not budgeted that it will come in at that rate. So that has created this last year in 25, that was almost $880,000 of over what we anticipated it coming in. So that basically gets put into our unrestricted or our unreserved balance to be used in future years for one-time projects. You will see this next in our next presentation, day 2, in our revenues of our cash balances that we're going to be using. This you'll see $3 million, not only in 26, which we are in right now, but $3 million more in next year's budget proposed for you guys to use in next year's budget of that one-time money. But the other things are we have savings in all sorts of different things. Just a few things. We had open positions in police. We had snow plowing savings. We had street savings. We had some park savings. Just when you get a 50,000 here and 50,000 there, they start adding up for the expenses being less than what we initially budgeted. So that's what the main the revenues over expenses are mostly due to. And again, there's way more detail in the financial statements, and I have also behind the scenes of each line item. And that's actually in the detailed budget I will show you next week for the revenues and this week for the expenses. All right, so going into this year's overview budget, on page 3 of your handout I always like to call this the one-page easy, all revenues, all expenses for every fund that there is. So to me, this is a one-stop shop, easy to look at, not a whole lot of detail, but it gives you everything on one page. So I always like to keep this handy when I'm looking at details, so I can always like see where everything's at. So I just wanted to point that out because that one to me is the main, keep that by your side at all times when we're talking through these things. The top one, the green, is the general fund. That encompasses a lot of our services, our public safety services, streets and parks, and then all just our regular planning and building, and all the different, your guys' mayors and the council and the finance, legal, clerks, basically just all of our services that we provide that are not part of our proprietary funds. So our water and sewer down below in the purple, we have the water fund and our sewer fund, and then also our garbage fund. We also, in that purple, we have the bond payment fund, which is the bonds that are paid for our water and sewer, if we have any. Right now, we only have the water bond right now. And then our bond construction fund, that is a new fund this year. That is a $30 million for our new treatment plant. That is required by state law to be tracked separately. Even though we are technically have a loan from the state, it's still considered a bond construction fund. So we don't change the name to be loan construction fund. We just leave it at the bond construction fund. There's something we utilized back in, I think it was 10 and 11 when we were doing the water construction for the water treatment plant as well. So it's just basically been reactivated, and you will see that on there for several years. So, and then what happened with that is that as it's being used, right now, we will not own it, or we will not owe anything on that loan until we're completed with that dollar amount. And then you'll see it transfer and then come up into the bond payment fund. So it's kind of a moving target. And then all those assets actually go on to the wastewater treatment or wastewater fund as being assets in that fund. So it's kind of a behind the scenes accounting that really you guys want to see, but it will be done behind the scenes.
That's gonna show up. Oh, good.
Just real quick, so what's in the payment fund right now is some of those bridge expenses?
The bond payment fund is 2 loans that we owe for the water treatment plant, 2012 and
Oh,
2013.
those are water treatment, okay,
Yep.
that's not from anything we did bridging the
Nope.
wastewater, okay.
Nope.
It's gonna show up in this year's budget as the full 30 million, even if we don't use it in this year's budget.
So if it's there, that hopefully we use it. If we don't, hopefully we don't use more. If we do, we might have to open up budget. Our anticipation is that we will use that and we will be using all of that. I think our loan is for 30.
We have a $38 million loan
Yep.
from DEQ with $5,000 loan forgiveness
Million.
and grant. Five,
5,000.
gosh, I'm on track, sorry. So about $43 million is what we have available. Part of our decision process in budgeting for a $30 million effort is understanding the limitations of our construction windows. We won't be able to get all the work done this year, but planning for capital purchases and equipment purchases in this on the front end and starting that process, because sometimes we can have rather large lead times. So looking at the first phase of being a lot of equipment purchases, some demo, and low hanging fruit for our construction efforts to kick off.
Perfect, thank you.
Excellent. And then going back up now to the green, that is our special revenue funds. We have the fiber optic network fund, the recreation fund, and the park improvement fund. And the capital projects impact fees, basically those are impact fees fund. And last but not least is our LID funds. They're very small. We only have one outstanding at this point. So that's just a very small, and that's the one in pink, red, whatever color that is. All right, moving on.
You had a marking degree, you'd know exactly.
No, definitely do not. All right, citywide budget trending by fund type. So when you're going back to your one page here, there's 2 blue lines in that. One is the governmental funds and one is proprietary funds. This is all tied back to your financial statements. So you technically can take out financial statements at the end of every single year to see how things are reported and how they're audited. And so we like to line them up so that it's easy to, if you need to or want to, you can actually line them up. So governmental funds include all the general funds, the special revenues, and then also our LID or our fiduciary funds on the financial statements. So that's what is in here right now that you can see here is that our governmental funds and our proprietary funds. or enterprise funds. You can see that big jump in the purple is our $30 million, and you're going to see that through the whole entire budget this year of that huge amount, a huge jump, and it's all related to that. This is just, again, a high level of how things have changed. Now is a breakdown of just the governmental funds of how they have changed. So back it's 23, this is 23 to 27. And you can see I wanted to point out the Park Improvement Fund back in 23 and 24. You can see that large amount there. That's when we had the JER and we were doing the construction of that building. So that's the why that was so large back there in those 2 years and why that it has decreased to be a lot smaller this year. And then this year, you'll see a large jump from 21 to 27 for the general fund, the green. And again, that is going to be a lot of the sewer projects is causing the majority of that large jump, the downtown project, and then also the Great Northern project. And we'll get into much more detail of all this stuff. This is, again, just a high level. And then the proprietary or enterprise funds, the bond construction fund is that main one jumping out there. We do have a water fund there. The green is also about a $4 million increase, or 4 million, sorry. And that is due to projects. And we'll get into that in the next, the large projects that we're going to be doing. Quickly wanted to show the change of employees across departments and divisions. This year we have a decrease of 0.5. So in the fire department, we have a 0.5 of a admin assistant that has been I don't want to say reallocated, but repurposed for a volunteer program, and then also for a partial, what's left of that to be a part-time if needed. It has not been filled for the last several years, so that's why we have used that for that volunteer program. And then a increase in the public works of 1 FTE in the admin, and that is for a deputy director position in that area. I wanted to also show the wage and benefit trending over the years. I think this is really interesting. I did eliminate the fire JPA, basically the Sagal and the West Side employees, because those really were a pass-through. We were paying all of them, but then we were passing through 100% of the wage or the expenses onto those two entities. So really, those were not true city expenses, in my opinion. They were just, we were paying employees on the behalf of somebody else and passing that through. And it really skewed things when you were starting to look at the numbers of what just the wages of the individual levels of those compared to the general population. So I removed those. I also removed part-time employees because those also do not have the same benefits as full-time employees. And then also elected do not have the same benefits as they have benefits, but they don't have the same full benefits. And it skews because the wages compared to the benefits are way higher. The benefits are way higher percentage-wise. So I took those out as well in this to only do full-time employees, wage and benefit trending here.
Sarah, can you leave that for a second? This is just something council needs to realize in the public. Look at this line, item benefits, medical and dental, 24, 1.2 to 1.7. So that's almost $500,000, just medical and dental for cost of government.
And on the next slide, actually has the average cost per FTE, and then it also breaks down what the average wage per FTE, the average total benefits, and then the medical and dental. The reason why I wanted to show the medical and dental different or separately is exactly that reason. So when you take the average over the past 5 years, the actual annual total increase in employee costs per FTE has increased 3.18% per year. Of that amount, the wages have increased per year 2.56%. So obviously that means benefits have increased more, but even more in depth is looking at that medical and dental. So when you look at the benefits in total per FTE, they've increased per year 4.69. So they've increased at a higher rate than what the wages per employee have. And the medical and dental have increased 9.41 per year. That is I mean, a lot. One thing that is interesting though, when you look at, when you look at 26 and 27, you're like, wait a second, that's only $200 more per employee. Well, every year when we have new employees, have old employees move on or retire, and then we have new employees, depends on the coverage they're getting. So some might be a family and some might actually be a single coverage. That really starts skewing things, because if we had a whole bunch on family the prior year and then we have a whole bunch of single this year, it's going to look like our costs actually go down or not increase very much, when really they truly did. So you have to always take that into consideration too. And then also average wages, also take that into consideration as well, because if you have an employee who's been here for 20, 30 years, they're usually maxed out on the pay scale. You get a new employee who, let's say, becomes a supervisor, they're usually starting off at the bottom of the pay scale. So it may look like you have a savings of 30,000 or 40,000 per employee, or 10 or whatever it ends up being, but really that's the turnover sometimes. So just because it's a 2.56 annual wage increase, that's not per employee. That is average across the whole entire city. This to me is actually very telling and actually very modest increase. So I think this is good for you guys to see this, because it's not like they're increasing 15, 20%. And maybe it's too low. You know, I mean, it's good information to have when and to be able to if people ask you questions and whatnot. I will also send this out to you guys, so you guys have this too as well.
And council members, if you haven't read my introductory letter to you in the budget, we do have a 3% COLA in there this year.
Yes.
Boys.
That's a good segue. The actual CPI for employees or for wage earners in the United States here for 2025 was 2.6. So we actually went up to 3, a little higher than that. Just so for gauge of how what that CPI was. All right, and then the very last thing I'm going to show before we dive into everything else is the capital improvement plan. That was, I'm going to look at last year was 20 million, 20.6 million. This year is 61.4 million. And the majority of that, if you look down on the wastewater, is going to be that $30 million project in that. These are the projects, the CIP projects that we're going to cover today. All of the wastewater ones, all of the street ones, all of the water projects. And then also the police department, the hybrid vehicles, we'll cover that today. Next meeting on day 2, we will cover the parks and then the general government projects. And then other than that, that's all for this presentation. I did want to quickly show you the links to the budget books where you can find those at, and then we will put them up for you guys to see as we're going through each one of them. Unless you guys had any high level questions right now.
Initial questions, council members? Sarah?
Yes. Can we stop sharing this? Right, on here, I wanted to show you how you or constituents can find the actual budget book out there on the internet. One, it is attached as a, in the attachments that you got. It's at the very bottom here. So if you're in the electronic file on the meeting, it's down at the bottom there. But you can also find it underneath our, on our website, underneath departments. And then in 2 different places, one of the annual budgets and then one under the financial transparency. On the financial transparency, this is where you can also find all of our quarterly reports, basically our financial at the end of the year annual audit report. You can find everything in here. So I'm going to scroll down. So there's all the links to all of them here. But if you keep scrolling, you have a lot more stuff in here. I'll go back up over here. To here, there's links to both the budget book and the capital improvement plan. I'll quickly just show you how the budget book itself is organized. So this is our complete budget book for the year. I did not, just so you guys know, I did not print this all out because it ends up being, I haven't counted this year, probably 700 pages, way too much. So we just printed out a very basic of the numbers for you guys, but then the actual narratives and everything are within this. So I would highly suggest going in here if you do have questions, because it might be explained in here before, if we have more questions after the presentations today and on day 2. First, we have in here, we have an introduction of the mayor's letter. or introduction. We have, of course, a couple of different things: history, organizational structure. I'm not going to click on all of these. I'll let you guys read at your leisure. Budgeting process, how we budget, our basics of budgeting, our basis of budgeting, our financial policies that guide all of those reserves, and basically every financial, not every, but most all financial transactions that happen in the city. The executive summary in here. Right now, we're working through our strategic plan. I will do that, but I have noted up here that we do not have a final one yet. So I have noted that that will be updated in here once we do get it done. And same with this. We will add this to our short-term factors and a long-range operating plan once we get them. And this book, just so you know, is really until we adopt the budget, we can add things to this and make it to be holistically what we want it to be. So that's why some of these things are not all the way completed yet or in the middle of it. We also have that budget timeline that we went over at the beginning of in the beginning of my PowerPoint. And then here is the personnel changes. I did one, and then that first one I went through in our slide. It says the reduction and additions, and then also the general grade charts and the and dollar amounts per our steps and grades. So you can find all that in there. And then goes into the fund summary. So going back to your one page color coded revenues and expenses, you can find then now all the details in here. Basically on one, and again, I'm not going to click on all of these, but I'll just show the all funds here. That's the beginning, and then it goes through all the graphs and then all the explanations and much more detail in here for all of the different areas. So we have the all funds, and then again, it's organized, the governmental funds, the general fund, all the special revenue funds, and then also the proprietary funds. So you can do it by fund in here, and then also your departments. So you have all the, on the very last handout, or very last thing in that handout that I gave you is also, you guys are used to seeing this proposed expenditure by department and division. It's a different way of looking at the budget. This is more of, this is by fund and how we have to track it by fund. This one at the end is actually the by department and division. So if you want to say, look at and see what is Holly's purview, you can actually go in here and look at what's in public works, and then go see all the public works and what's underneath of her. So there's just two different ways of looking at the budget. And sometimes I find one's easier to look at. And sometimes you got to go back to the fund because you want to see what does the fund have. So this is the department. Again, all departments, we have elected offices. We have the finance department, the legal, central service department, community development, public works department, fire and police. And then we'll cover next week is funding sources. This is the big pots of funding sources. So it's not we have all of them in here, but then we also then cover some of the higher level funding sources that we have.
So you want to just show them where they could see a narrative? They want to see what a line item is about. Can you quickly click the one?
In the funding sources?
Yeah, just if they see a number that they want to know, what is that number applies to over?
Let's see. Let's maybe it's by division.
You're not set up, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, now okay, so.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, it depends on what you want to look at. So that's why it's kind of like, okay, and this is not a good example because this is all funding sources. Let's just say property taxes here. We'll do that one. So if you have the property tax on this line here, on the second line in, you say property taxes, you can see it's part of the general fund in the green. And then going down, it's part of the recreation fund as well, for a total at the very bottom of $5,699,178. That's the amount that we are proposing to levy. However, when you go into here, again, we have not received our final new construction rolls, which we do not have to we're not statutorily required to get those until the third Monday in July. So we won't have the final numbers on these to put in here. But for now, I have anticipated and projected what I think and hope we'll get. But in here, you can see actual numbers in here. The breakdown. So here you got here you can see this here of the property tax current. That ties then now to the very top line here. We also then have replacement and delinquent and uncollected. That is not part of our levying amount that's in here. So we budgeted this amount, but then also, and shown on here is the actual levy amount here. So it's kind of how you can tick and tie. Now, if you have wanted detail of any more, or like if you can't find it, just call me, because there's a lot of money, or a lot of dollars, a lot of money, and a lot of everything in here. So
Yeah, and the director spent a lot of time building those narratives. So if you do have questions, we can get you there, or they can direct you there. But if you want to see, you know, what's fire spending this money on, you can click and see, and there's a bit of a narrative there of what they're spending that money on, or any other department.
yep. All right, so then we'll cover all those revenue ones next, at the next meeting. Moving on to the capital improvement, plan. So on in your packet, page 54 through 57 is the high level of capital improvement plan. You have the expenses, and then you also have the revenues that are, on that next, on the second, page of what's going to support or pay for those projects. Again, it's found inside of this book underneath capital improvement plan. These are just printouts in your book of what's actually in the detail here. The nice part, and I'm going to click on this department division, is if you want to know, I'm just going to click on the lift station replacements. If you want to know more about this actual project, you just click on that there, and it will bring you to the actual page that kind of explains more of it. And then it will actually run through the funding sources. This one happens to all be in the wastewater, so it's not nearly as some of the other ones will have multiple funding sources. So if you have sidewalks, for example, you're going to have the resort city tax, and I'll go back to show you that real fast. So this one, for example, will have multiple different things. It has grant funding, it has general fund, resort city tax, general fund and lieu fees, and the capital impact fee fund. So you can see all the different funding sources that are supporting and basically paying for that we're proposing in this budget. So all of the capital improvement projects have these pages, so you can find them underneath and in detail in here. All right, so I'm going to go back and we'll switch over to letting the directors talk about their areas. I'm going to actually go into the Public Works Department. And one area to note is that underneath the Streets Division, the Water Division, Wastewater Division, and also the Parks Division, this year, this is new, that we have a street and sidewalk projects. We actually have a sub page that's called the project page. In the past, the only way, not the only way, but the main way to find the project is actually just in the handout. This year, actually, the secondary page here now actually shows the projects, and we can, Holly, if you want to have me flip to that, just tell me that in this and when you're presenting. So
I'm having a hard time switching from that to this.
all right, so now if you want to go back up out of the department.
Okay, so that's where we are.
Now we're going to go through. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Right.
So now we're moving on to the enterprise funds. This is the water fund and the bond payment fund.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yep, inside of
our summary.
So keep going down in the Public Works, and then click that open. And then look down.
Okay, so that's the usually, so scroll that way.
There you go. Now click on the water plant one or the water project.
Yeah, that water project. So wastewater has waste.
Yep, so the water division has all of them.
You just talk really fast.
I know, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Holly, you're spending most of our money, so and
Yes, she is.
you're back you lost about 5 minutes there, so we'll give you an extra 5 minutes, so.
Very nice job sticking to the schedule. Before we kick off our budget, I wanted to introduce you to Quentin Duncan. He is a familiar face. He is our new utilities supervisor. He is not new to Sandpoint, but he's new to the role. So I wanted to give him an opportunity during the daytime for him to just quickly introduce himself, give him background, and you can share a little bit of your experience and time with the city. And
Yeah, Quentin Duncan, new in the utilities supervisor role. I've been with the city in the utilities for almost 9 years now. Born and raised here in Sandpoint, worked in the private industry since 2001. Installing infrastructure throughout Sandpoint and the surrounding area. I do have extensive background in underground utilities, which I think helped me get to where I'm at today. I have a phenomenal crew that, with the assistance of Rod over the years, developed, and proud to step up and fill the role that he had left over his time. Excited to move forward with the projects that we have that you'll hear about here in a little bit. And excited to see the growth and improvement of our infrastructure.
We're really pleased to have you here. You're welcome to hang out or you can head off. We are starting with utilities, so.
Yeah, I want to kind of
Stick
see a
around
little bit of
for
this. Knowledge is good.
So if in your packet, which is what I'll be working off of, page 33.
Page 30.
Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm really gonna run through and highlight differences that we have between spending differences between last year and this year. And if you have any questions as we go, please stop me. So I'll be kind of reading off this spreadsheet and it'll kind of tie to the visuals in front of you as well. So as far as our water division for staffing, there's no changes here. This is our water treatment crew. Sarah, do you mind scrolling to this spreadsheet? Or
Right.
little overwhelming looking at a spreadsheet. Our staffing levels, as I mentioned, are consistent. Other than, as Sarah mentioned, we are adding one role to our Public Works Department, our Public Works Deputy Director. The purpose of that role is to support our city engineer. So right now we have a contracted city engineer services. We're reverting back to, we're hoping to revert back to having a city engineer in-house. The purpose of the deputy director role is to help support our operations. So as we are picking up some capital projects, our wastewater treatment plant and several other capital projects, our Public Works Department is needing capacity to take on those additional efforts. So that's the only role that we're planning or position that we're planning to add. We don't take adding a role lightly. We understand it's a big deal for our small town. So I do want to highlight that as a request and again, say that it was very thoughtful and it is really pointed to all of our capital projects that were needed. And so we'll dive into what those capital projects are, but kind of ramping up for our wastewater treatment plant and some other critical capital improvement needs in the next few years. So that's the purpose in seeing under our Public Works admin that $548,000 increased to $640,000. Then scrolling, looking down under our other professional services, we have $60,000. That's towards general engineering. If we are not successful in hiring a city engineer, which we've had that position open for some time, we're going to have to lean on consultant services. So if we fill the position, that $60,000 in engineering fees will go down. But if we don't have that staff position filled, we'll need to rely on consultants. So that's the purpose of $60,000.
Holly,
Yes.
quick question. So is that $60,000 in addition to what we would be paying if we had a city engineer in-house?
It would hopefully be in place of. So if we don't have an engineer in-house, we have consulting fees, and that would be our budget line for that item.
So
So
in other
ideally
words,
one or the other.
we really only spent roughly 60,000 on consultant fees this year because we didn't have a city engineer.
No, we're much higher than, or not much higher, we are higher than 60,000. This was my best projection at trying to anticipate when we might get a city engineer with what we might spend. So I think it's about half of what we'd expect to spend on engineering services.
Okay, yeah, I guess the crux of my question is, what's the comparison between if we had to spend the entire year paying consultants versus if we got a in-house position on day one of the fiscal?
So our projections for existing consultant services will be about $150,000 for HMH this year is how we're tracking. That does not take into account the staff time to manage a consultant. So you're seeing our planning department spend a lot of time coordinating with our consultant. Our billings, I'm spending time coordinating with the consultant. So it's not a true to cost because of the staff time and the admin of managing a consultant, but that's about where that lands. It is more cost effective, it looks like, to have a consultant city engineer, but there's so many efficiencies to having it in-house and providing better customer service, better timelines on our development permits, responsiveness, and then just having that expertise here at the city is helpful as well.
They're certainly more integrated into the day-to-day permitting and calls and emergencies, things like that.
Sure. What was the difference in cost? I didn't catch that part.
We're projecting with HMH to have about $150,000 this year spent in consulting services. And then on salaries, it's about $100,000 that we're increasing our salary and wage budget. But that, of course, does not take into account benefits.
Okay. So the wages for a in-house city engineer would be 100,000. That's what we're budgeting for.
I think a little more than that, but generally, what is it? Maybe 120-ish.
I can get you those numbers later if you want to know. I would have to open it and look and see.
And this
No,
this is all water and utility funding, right?
they actually charge their time to what they're working on. So it might be budgeted here, but behind the scenes, if they're working on a wastewater, it goes to wastewater. If they're working on streets, it's going to streets. So yes, it's budgeted here, but then it's also, it's charged where it goes.
And a lot of the city engineer's time is on development review.
Some currently, most of the, which is a good amount.
So that'd be paid out of the general fund.
Well,
So when our city engineer is doing private development review, they're looking at our city streets infrastructure, and that is supported by our general fund. When they're reviewing water mains, it's supported by our water fund. And when they review the wastewater mains, it's supported by the wastewater fund. So depending on their purview of the review, because they are reviewing utilities with private development, that's where their salary gets split across different funds.
And in a perfect world, those expenses would be offset by permit fees, right?
We do not see that
That's the hope.
recovery.
You don't see that recovery. Is that something that we should reconsider our fees?
Well, we just increased them. And I think staff's being pretty strict on, hey, you've got your free time, you get your set initial sort of meetings. Some cities, one that I consult with, it's a retainer. You fill it up every time you draw it down. So if you actually pay as a developer what the costs are.
Yeah.
The engineers will do. Okay, we could look at that next year.
Thanks.
It's good for you to know that we many places do recover their fees. We don't recover our costs on development fees.
So then, Holly, I'm sorry, it would be cheaper to hire an engineer. Is that what it's looking to be?
So it's hard to, I would encourage you not to look at it as a one-to-one. I don't want to say it's cheaper to hire an engineer because there are a lot of efficiencies in using a consultant firm. They have a lot of access to a breadth of expertise that our in-house city engineer won't necessarily have. So our in-house engineer could very well still need consultant services. There's just a lot of efficiencies that we see in having in-house engineering. We see much better customer service response, for example. We have folks coming in all the time and their expectation, because we provide such good customer service, is they can talk to any staff member here. And when we have a consultant engineer, that's really tough because they're not physically here, and we have a lot of folks with engineering questions. So that's one piece where we can provide better customer service, having it in-house. And then our staff time, it can be much more efficient. Right now, our city, one of our planners, Eric Brubaker, for example, spending a lot of his time coordinating between developers and a consultant, where he could just, our in-house city engineer could just get right on the phone with the developer, and you'd have a lot more efficiencies. And of course, same with our admins. Our planning admin is spending more time with that coordination, our public works admin, our public works tech. So I would say from a cost perspective, I wouldn't say it's cheaper, but I would say it's better customer service and more efficiencies seen in-house. So if you're looking at it for bottom line cost, probably want to stick with a consulting firm, but
Is the reality like, is anybody applying?
we've, no, so we originally, when our city engineer left, Brandon Stagen, was in August. We posted a city engineer position for a short time, didn't have applicants. We revamped that role into a deputy public works director. So we'll see if we get this approved and we repost again, if there's any interested folks out there. Engineers and the type of engineer we're looking for are a bit hard to find right now.
Yeah, and it's a compensation thing. In the private sector, they're making a lot more money, but they don't get all the benefits of public service.
The other point is that you're just relating to the cost efficiency pieces. If a lot of staff is doing a lot of coordinating, we're taking away from what their actually positions are. So that's a cost thing too, that isn't always easily calculated. So I know you kind of said that, but I don't know if that was heard in that way, that there is a cost savings because we'd be giving several employees time back to do those positional work.
So the job is currently posted.
We have a deputy public works director position that's posted.
Okay, not a city.
And this would be posted in the fall. Whenever, if this were to be adopted.
If getting a city engineer is adopted, we will post it in the fall.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just looking at the 5-year plan, 4-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever, if we see a lot of need for that. And I appreciate the interconnectedness of having an in-house person. I think there's a lot of efficiency in that too. So I think, yeah, I think you explained it well. Thank you.
Well, and frankly, it would take a lot off Holly's plate right now. You're probably all aware Holly's juggling a lot of projects and a lot of engineers. So to give Holly more bandwidth to deal with the sewer and the water lines and the sewer line projects, the street projects, it just gives us way more capacity as an organization to fund and actually do the projects that you're funding.
One more quick question. If development in the city were to slow down, we could scale our consultant time accordingly. We wouldn't need to hire them as often if there were fewer developments going through.
Yeah, but more likely, Councilman Schreiber, we would probably go heavy and hard and fast on our capital improvement budgets because it's an ambitious capital improvement plan of the water and wastewater. So if development were to slow down, that means we could maybe even realistically do all the projects that are in the budget. It'll be hard to do all, and we haven't done all the projects since we've been here.
Gotcha.
We always aim for this to do these capital projects, but we never get them all done.
Gotcha.
I haven't seen
To add-
development slow down.
If private development did slow down, there's a lot of things that city engineer could work on. Standard development, for example, I know is something that we would like to look at is developing our own city standards. And then as the mayor described it perfectly, we have a backlog of capital projects, which is why you see our capital budget so high. We're just trying to knock out backlog of historical projects, and that position could be utilized to help implement those projects, review, maybe even design. If private development goes down, we could do design in-house.
Excellent. Thanks.
Continuing on, everything is standard, pretty consistent. We're budgeting based on years past, and again, I'll just highlight things that are different. So if you have a question about any item on here and what it is, I'm happy to answer. But the next difference is capital vehicles. So we do have $30,000 to replace one of our fleet vehicles.
Page 34.
30,
Yeah.
page 34, we're in the middle now. The $32,000 to replace one of our fleet vehicles. We have a 2005 tracker that's just on its last leg. We use our fleet vehicles when we're doing inspections. So we'll take our fleet vehicle out to inspect sidewalks, private development projects, utility connections, tree inspections. So that's the purpose of that $32,000.
If you heard right, 2005. The tracker.
And R2, we do get a lot of wear and tear on our cars. Surprisingly, how often you're in and out, it wears much faster than your vehicle at home. So even though it's short trips and mileage is low, just that in and out is really wearsome. That is just an overview of our public works admin. Any questions before we move and transition to water distribution? Public Works admin is folks here at City Hall for the most part. So water distribution, this is part of what Quentin does. We are not making any updates to our salary and wages. So I'm at the bottom of page 34 here. We're keeping consistent with our water distribution crew. We split our utility supervisor between water and sewer. On the next page, 35, you'll see that we do have some legal services on here noted. This is for our, I call it the blue line, but that's our pressure system assessment if we need any legal advice or input on how we're serving outside of our jurisdiction. We have $20,000 allocated this year for that effort. Moving
Question on that.
Sure.
So there's been a lot of talk about making progress on
Water service.
water service outside our boundaries. Is $20,000 enough to accomplish interaction on that, or is that just reactionary?
That's a good question, Kyle, Councilman Schreiber. We spent some money last year. We had given personally to an assessment of the legality of our water service agreements. Long and short of it, there's questions, there's qualifiers. That would probably be low if it gets contentious. My goal in the next month or two, I talked to Mayor Geiger, is that we need to sit down as cities and go over that assessment with them and say, here's our legal requirements, our legal obligations to serve, here's the challenges, and really kind of start to collaborate on the solution. So if it gets contentious, no, that wouldn't be enough. We'd have to reopen the budget or allocate somewhere else.
Okay, so you don't foresee needing like a specialized consultant to start these conversations?
I think for this year, I think it'll just be collaborative. At that point, once we kind of understand what the other parties, primarily Ponderay and Kootenai, have to say about it, we probably will need more money, but it's going to be a beast to tackle. So if we do need more, we would have to either allocate from elsewhere in the water budget or reopen the budget.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, can you speak to what was in the budget last year and where we're at with that?
The 150?
The 150, sir.
I would need to pull it up. Since I have this up, I am, but I can.
Yeah, about one, it's about 20 and change we spent with giving person engagement.
And we allocated that to do, was that the Syringa issues or
No.
was that allocated for the Ponderay issue?
So Ponderay Kootenai.
Okay, so we haven't really moved the needle like.
We got a
anticipated.
assessment. We got an assessment from, we sent them all their documentations. They did a legal opinion. And I'm happy to share it with you all. I don't know if it's attorney-client. I haven't. Because
I'm happy to discuss with you guys as well
And Dax,
about this, and I'll echo what saying $20,000 is not enough. Should push come to shove,
I guess my question is if we have all this from last year's budget, why are we not rolling this over into the coming year's budgets? If we, because what I heard in our strategic planning is this was a big priority for the council. So,
I'll defer to finance on that one, why it's not being rolled over, but I think that Fonda and I can cover a lot of these costs as far as legal. Fonda and I can do a lot of that work. I think.
so this is outside of our already hired legal in addition. Okay. all
Yeah,
right.
that's
So-
for the consultant to provide an opinion, an expert consultant to provide an opinion on the status of the legal issues
Okay.
serving in the Monterey.
Right.
And I can talk more about that.
Yeah,
Later.
yeah, I will. Thank you.
And Deb, in transparency, there's a lot of hair on it, so to speak, so I'm hopeful that the cities can all come to a very workable agreement. We've learned more in the last couple months about Project P17, you may recall, which is the main issue out by the Elks golf course, that pressure issue, that line. Offline, Holly and I have been talking to developers in Ponderay who are talking about solving that problem, basically developers fixing deficiencies out there. That still doesn't unpack the larger issue is we're delivering water to areas that we have no control over the land use. I think that's something the council and our neighbors are gonna have to have a frank discussion about.
Yeah. Therein lies my concern why the budget's changing so much on that budget line, because I've been on the council a long time. I know this issue pretty well.
Yes.
I don't, this one particular budget line item, just to not to beat that to death, but my understanding is our in-house legal has developed in some documents, so it seems like we're positioned and ready to move forward and hopefully with minimal legal effort. Maybe it's a little optimism there, but.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sarah, can I ask a question? Are you gonna at some point talk about rolling over funds?
So if you don't use it, and this is where the timing of budgets really get tricky. The earlier we bring a budget to you guys, the less we know what we're doing in the current year, be able to know if we're gonna roll it over. The later we bring a budget, the more we know what we've done in the current year, so we know what we need to roll over. So when you talk about rolling over, it's stuff that, let's say, I'll just take this for example, of the 150, let's say that we still haven't done this project, but we know it's still gonna cost 150. We've only spent, let's say 5,000, but we know we're gonna spend another 145 in the next year. We would roll that over. It's not new money. It's actually budget that we've rolled over. So it doesn't take more operating budget, if that makes sense. It's gonna be part of your one-time money that's gonna be falling out in that unreserved account, or that unreserved that I keep saying grows. Some of that money is actually rollover to the next year, and it's part of your beginning cash. If that makes sense.
So it doesn't necessarily roll over into that item.
It can, if that's where it's at. If that's what is needed the next year, yes. If it's not, then no, it rolls in and it becomes one-time money that you can use for, well, part of your in your financial policies of what you can use it for in that one-time policy.
Okay, and so on another point, another time, I would like to understand more what can roll over and what can't, because you told me at one point that the travel money for council could not roll over into the next year.
No, that's different. So you can't, let's say if you don't spend, let's say you don't spend, and I'll just use that $500 this year of your money, your individual money. That doesn't mean you get 1,000 next year. Your money goes away, and unless we increase the complete budget by that amount. So do I explain that?
Another time.
So there's two different ways of rolling over. Just because you don't spend it this year, doesn't mean it is automatically you get it next year. No, it has to be in that budget as rolled over.
Okay.
But yes, we'll meet and I'll explain that. And two, I want to stress that the water and sewer and the enterprise funds are completely different than general fund. They are a standalone business, so their stuff, if it rolls, it goes right back into the water fund. Now, when it goes to the general fund, it goes back into the pot of general fund, and let's say
That's what I kind of wanted to know.
it can be used for police. It can, it's completely. I like to think of that as two completely different.
What can and cannot roll over, I guess, is where I was. Thanks.
So now mid-page on 35, under purchase properties and services, these are all the services provided for the utility. Pretty consistent numbers. One small change is asphalt repair and patching. Historically, our street department has done patching for our utility group. We're trying to be a bit more efficient in our streets, and we have a backlog and a lot of work to do. So we're gonna rely on some of our local contractors to patch some of our street utility patches instead of relying on our street crew. And the next big change, if you run down to supplies, there's $800,000. This is for our water meters. So we are continuing to transition to our cellular water meters. So that's our next big purchase and for in 2027. On page 36, at the top, this is also related to meters. Our software has increased. So as we transition to cellular, our meter reading for software is increasing to projected $49,000 next year. Under capital, we do have, I'll speak.
Sorry,
Go ahead, Cal.
is that going to be every year from now on? It's gonna be 49,000?
Reoccurring costs.
Oh, wow.
But caveat there is massive savings. These things read themselves. Sometimes we'll send our readers out 2 or 3 times a month to go back bad reads. That's driving around everywhere. These new cellular meters, from what I understand, they just almost real time are checked all the time. No when there's leaks, no when there's a problem like that. So there should.
Are we gonna see those cost savings somewhere else in the budget, or are we gonna be able to
Yeah.
reduce?
I think we'd be more efficient with
FTE
our-
or something?
We don't have a proposed reduction in FTEs. This is the first batch of how many are we doing? 300? Is that right?
We got 1,500 ordered on the first round. I don't
We were
recall.
discussing this when it came up to council, this whole thing and
I
the
think it's
costs.
another 1,500 is what it would be.
Yeah, I think we should certainly be able to track that, Kyle, Councilman Schreiber, as we move forward. But I know the folks doing the readings were pretty darn excited. And for Michelle, who does the billings, not to get, sometimes we'll get a read that's 0 gallons and we know it's an apartment. And it's like, darn it, we gotta go out to that read again, go out and do the read. But it's more than one. It's like, I wanna say it's like 24 or something that we'll get in the drive-by, so.
I think Councilman Schreiber, I mean, you're talking about, okay, we're gonna see that savings somewhere else, like staff time, et cetera, or we're just gonna fill that time with something else? Like, is it
Yeah.
really gonna pay off? I think that's maybe,
Right,
if I'm understanding you correctly.
that's exactly what I'm asking.
I guess.
Get back to you about, I imagine I'll have a homework list at the end of this meeting and I'll clarify, because I know for the endpoint itself, it increased from 10 cents to $1 per meter. And that's part of these costs, and I'll get back to you on what that other cost is in there.
Perfect, thanks.
What I understood when we did the meeting on this and we all discussed it was that water pays for water. So these funds are coming from the water fund to pay for the meters and the upgrades and everything else. So it doesn't affect general fund dollars and take away from something else. I don't know if that helps answer your question, but that's what I recall in the meeting is water users are paying for this service and the dollar change per month was minimal to the bill,
Okay.
plus the efficiency of our man hours that we would get back.
That's correct,
Yeah,
Councilwoman
vehicles.
Rule. And this has real-time leak detection. So if there's like a 24-hour period, instead of us getting a late notice, it'll like let you know cellularly right away. You got a problem on this line.
Businesses will appreciate that, especially.
Yeah.
And
larger-
homeowners, I think there's a big, we also discussed that, I mean, there's a big benefit for homeowners who don't want to end up with a $500 bill that might bankrupt them because they would know immediately. So-
Or, even more than that, water damage.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, in addition to water damage and all the other, but bill in and of itself, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Moving to capital. So there's one capital building project plan for next year. You'll see that we had $30,000 in FY 26. We are planning to do a roof extension at our city shop. The shop is owned by our utility and we are planning to expand a carport so we could have more space to work. Our mechanic is really tight for space and we have a lot of vehicles parked. And so for workspace and parking, we're planning to put on just a roof expansion. And one of the contractors went out and took a look and said he needed a new roof. So we're planning to do some roof repair next year as long as an expansion. Any questions on water distribution before we move to water treatment?
We figure out that leak that was coming right through there.
That would be facilities.
Okay.
It's not here.
He's at our next meeting.
Fourth or fifth time.
So water treatment, we're not looking to add any staff. We've got one supervisor supported by 3 operators in that division. Moving to page 37.
I have a question here for you.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Right at the top there, the forester. So the 20,000, I saw somewhere on here 50,000 for arborist. I can't find it right now, but I saw it in this when I was weeding through this the other day. It's not the same thing, right?
We have a watershed project that we can speak to, and that's gonna have some arborist services. We have arborist budgets in our parks, streets, and in our water division and wastewater as well. So in our water treatment, we've got Sand Creek and we have the lake water treatment plant. We had a storm last year in I guess in 2025. So you saw a lot of arborist services. That's tree care, that's tree pruning, removal, and windstorm preparation.
So I did not see a real city arborist fund, an amount. I saw 50,000 somewhere and I can't find it right now.
It's gonna, we'll come to that later. This is.
Okay.
For street, that would be a good streets conversation. We pull up
Okay.
our streets.
So this is,
Just the water distribution of
Okay.
the water lines. And our plants.
and so could one arborist do all of these things you're talking about across the city?
This is true. So tree removal, tree pruning.
Right, it's
Um,
arborist work.
It could be removal of a tree wouldn't necessarily need to be. I don't think that, I mean, for our water treatment plan, I don't see a full
Okay.
time. I think I think the best time to discuss arborist is under general fund, and I'll highlight it for you.
Where I saw it, I found it somewhere.
This is minimal
Gotcha.
work.
Okay.
Holly, so I know I'm getting a little lost, so we're increasing that budget. A significant amount. Do you foresee in our water treatment plants that we need that work done? Is this planned, or are you just planning for damage and disaster?
After we had the windstorm 2 years ago, there's some more tree cleanup.
So backlog is
and-
what this is.
Yes,
Okay.
specifically up at
Okay.
Little Sand. There is a big watershed effort that we'll get to in projects.
Right.
I saw that too, yeah.
The next item, under moving down to services, we have equipment RM. You'll see that went up from 88,000 last year to 220,000 this year. There's 3 things that we're doing here. There's a chemical pump fee that we're replacing, turbidity sensors, and then we're also looking to transition some of our lighting to LED. We're aware there should be some credits available to us, but we went ahead and just budgeted that full effort there. Continuing on, purchased and other purchase supplies is pretty standard year over year. Continuing to page 38. The last thing for me to highlight is under capital vehicles. Our water treatment plant operators are planning to replace one of their vehicles, one of their service trucks, and outfit it with a plow. Our water treatment operators do have to respond in any condition. So when they do take their take-home vehicle in the winter, they do respond with a plow because they're often plowing themselves into the city if there is snow on the ground. Sometimes they beat our street department out.
And so
Questions on water treatment?
I have a quick question on snow removal. This is not the right place, since you just brought that up.
Probably best in streets,
Okay,
but
all right, I'll hold off.
this is just for their parking lots and the Little Sand Creek.
Okay.
And the lake plant
Thank
and
you.
the pump. And of course, the tanks.
And so that's for a new plow, a plow vehicle.
A truck with plow, replacing an older truck.
Any questions on water distribution and treatment?
Did you want to flip over and do the water projects now?
Yes, that'd be great.
I'm gonna flip over to this one that says water projects underneath here and then scroll down to where it actually lists out the projects.
This is page 54 for council members in your booklet.
Water projects, is that what we're going to do?
On the page.
Yep, let me scroll down.
So now if you go to capital. There. We need to scroll down.
Is the, what did we say?
Water project.
53.
I don't know.
Oh,
You click on it.
first
and you
page of the
click
capital.
arrow across it
It's
too.
54.
There we go. Ah,
That's the first page for this.
yeah.
This whole thing is juicy. Trying to keep up with all the lines and it's like, took me hours the other day and I still don't get it. During the days.
Good page, Sarah. Next year for our projects, Great Northern realignment, I'll start at the top there. This year we had $350,000 budgeted for Great Northern project under the water utility. We removed that in FY 27, so you'll recall Great Northern, we're coming up on the end of our need to spend SURA dollars. We've got $4 million on one improvement. And that there's kind of two projects. There's the full project where we do water main and updates, sewer main updates, full road reconstruction. We need a federal grant to complete that. So we've applied for that project. If we don't get that federal grant, we have a stormwater only and road rehab scenario planned. So that's what you'll see in the budget is a stormwater only and road rehab for GN, not the full grant project. When we do stormwater only and road rehab only, there's no effort to update our utilities because we're not doing a road reconstruction project. So that's why that water utility was taken out of the GN project. Again, if we do get the grant, that's our opportunity to do all the improvements. Absent a grant, we're doing phase 1 stormwater and road rehab project, no utilities. Phase 3 downtown revitalization.
Yeah, would that grant fall into the future budget year, or why wouldn't you just budget for it in case we get the grant?
Either way, I don't think we'd be building it in this next funding cycle.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Downtown revitalization phase 3, we've got $300,000 budgeted because we are replacing a water main. Our watershed master plan, we have $250,000. You'll recall IFM came and gave a presentation just a couple weeks ago. There's two efforts they're working on. One is the grant project that they're working on with Fish and Wildlife. We're expecting to get that grant funding. So this is part of it is our match there. And then there's a fire break that they're planning for looks like switchback 5. And there's more information on all of these projects. If you wanted to dive into that now, we could pull and look at that. Which is also tied with our timber management. And then there's water line projects. We've got coal tar steel line in our water system. We have it on Boyer Road and it goes out to Pine Street. And so we can click on that project to get more details, but ultimately it's in replacing aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And then our lower diversion upgrade, that's a rollover project from this year. As well as our woodland booster, thought was a rollover project, but maybe that's new. So Sarah, we can dive, if there's, do we want to dive into the detail of all these
You're
projects?
kind of
Go through
running
one by
low
one?
on time. I mean, just tracking, so maybe council members have specific questions on the details, they can send it to Sarah, Sarah will send to Holly, and then everyone else is on if that's agreeable. I just don't want Holly to find, you always have about 5 minutes to get through everything else, but we'll get to that.
When asking questions. Until another time.
I did want to point out that not everything makes it to the capital improvement plan. So for example, on this one, the timber management is a great example. That's not a capital improvement plan. That's just going out and cutting trees and the timber. So you will, if you're trying to tie this to this, it doesn't directly tie.
Right.
So just so you know that sometimes when you're looking at that, and then also, for example, the downtown revitalization, that is, the whole project is under street capital and projects. However, part of it is paid from the water fund. So if you need any help going back and forth between that, let me know.
I think that's what's so confusing.
All of these projects are detailed, as Sarah already showed the examples, the
Yep.
scope, where it is, the funding
Right.
for it. So that information, I mean, all of this is in front of you. So if you have questions, I can help explain it. And hopefully I'm not giving too much detail. Sorry, but this is taking so long.
I think just the big changes is, I mean.
Yeah, that's great.
Like the,
You're doing great.
you know, yeah.
Is it more detail, less detail? I can
No,
give
you're
that.
doing
I
great.
could-
I like how you're pointing out where the
Yeah,
big changes
I
are.
can save my detail for another time.
So moving to wastewater fund, the biggest thing here is, no surprise, it's the wastewater treatment plant, and Sarah did a good job describing earlier. We're looking about $30 million. We are positioning ourselves so that we can respond and respond quickly and not have to reopen our budget. So optimistically, and what we're hoping, we are still working with DEQ on our permitting efforts. And so we are still trying to coordinate with them on an auxiliary treatment and getting our price down, but we are gearing up, and the hope is this summer, and the plan is this summer, that we're going out for engaging a design engineer and a construction professional so that we can actually start spending dollars quickly and progressing that project forward. So it'll be full speed ahead. We are still coordinating and working with DEQ, but that's the biggest funding difference in our wastewater fund, is just that effort and the bond. So you're not going to see any increase in positions. So our positions are stable across this fund. So starting with our wastewater collection, as I mentioned, our staffing level is consistent on page 40. There's just one thing to highlight here, not a lot of changes to our wastewater collection. Just a little bit more in equipment and supplies, and that's just because we're seeing costs generally just going up and our collection system needing more work. So there's not one piece there other than the general trend of the division.
That's page 40.
40, yes.
Yeah, that's actually down.
I've skipped way down. It's middle of the page 40.
Yeah, oh,
That's really the only thing to highlight for collections. So I'm going to keep going to page 41. For water treatment, again, positions are staying the same. We're not hiring any folks to this division. Our services, our projections are projected to be stable. Same with purchased service, operational supplies. There's a general increase in operational supplies. We've seen some chemical prices go up, but nothing really of note. On page 42, bottom of that page, are capital projects. So we do have, sorry, capital projects actually. Go to the following page. I have nothing of note on wastewater treatment other than the wastewater treatment plant and preparing for our bond. Are there any questions on wastewater treatment and our bonds?
All right. On to sanitation garbage. Is that you, Holly? Or-
That is me. This one's really quick. We do have a contracted services with waste management. Thanks for coming, Quentin.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Hope you have a quiet day.
If there's any questions about our contracted services, that's on page 32 and 33 in your packet. We can cruise on to streets.
32. And that's a multi-year contract, Cheryl, is that right?
Yep.
2 more years?
Up in, was it 2029?
Yeah,
2029.
10-year, yeah.
10-year contract.
So it's, the rates are already outlined in the agreement.
Moving to streets. Page 21. Our staffing levels are consistent. We have 2 senior operators, 4 operators, and 1 street supervisor, so that's consistent with years past. Under purchased professional technical services, we've got $100,000 for our multimodal transportation master plan. The purpose in this effort is not to do a whole new multimodal transportation plan, rather to update our existing. Updates to our existing would include our truck routes and any other items. If council wanted to do a more holistic, full plan revamp, you'd want to look at $400,000. So this is just a open up the plan, modify what you'd like, short, sweet, really pointed, concerted effort, but not a full revision of the plan.
You say truck routes? What changes are you talking about?
I've heard council concerned about our truck routes, wanting trucks off division, Boyer, wanting on extension. Really just revisiting where our trucks are routed and focused, and maybe picking up the Baldy extension project, or maybe finding a more cost-effective option.
Okay. And that's the only thing you envision in this $100,000?
No, that we put this in here as a reaction to council. One thing I heard was trucks, but we've also heard
Update of the plan.
street sections and wanting to do our road standards, so that could be an effort, but really this would be opened up and modified as council would direct.
Okay.
I know there's been a lot of public about Boyer and Highway 2, you know, always the concerns about that crosswalk and different things, and so anyway.
Yeah, I was just,
He's putting options out there, I think is what Holly's trying to say. It's not defined yet, but she's heard a lot from us about, we don't like it.
gotcha.
There's some master plans in there that are not well received, and that would be the opportunity to revisit master plans or take them out formally.
I was just trying to reconcile the 100,000 that you put in the budget versus the 400,000 you just mentioned for a full plan. Like what are we not gonna get for the 100,000 that we might want? And is this 100,000 the right number?
If there's nothing in the multimodal transportation plan you like, you want to scrap the whole plan from the start. You start collect data, collect traffic counts. It starts with a lot of data collection, where under that $100,000 effort, we would reuse a lot of that existing data and project it forward. And master plan is a lot of ton of outreach and workshops. I mean, dozens. This effort is maybe half a dozen outreach efforts. This needs to be scoped. This is just a budget item, and it could also be phased too.
Okay.
If you're digging into the multimodal transportation plan more and finding more you don't like, but.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question on that. I know you're working on a citywide traffic impact analysis. Presumably we could use some of those findings to augment the multimodal.
Yes, in this year's budget, we've got, I think, $50,000 to look at our developer impact fees.
I think
Not necessarily multimodal, but impact fee, traffic study related.
Thanks.
There's another arborist.
We do have an first line here, so, and
But this
years,
isn't the one still, but
in years past, we had $20,000 budgeted, and this year we upped it to 35,000. The purpose in this increase is to address our backlog. So as a reminder, our trees are, our right-of-way trees are the responsibility and maintenance of the adjacent property owner. We still do see a lot of deferred maintenance. We start with reaching out to the homeowner and asking them to trim their tree or remove their tree, and we don't always get a lot of traction. Sometimes we don't have time to address these or to wait for the homeowner. For example, if there's a tree blocking a stop sign, it's a hazard. So we are just looking and realizing there's a backlog of a lot of trees that need to be pruned back. And so we increased our typical arborist services from $20,000 that we really dedicate for hazards and hazardous tree removal as needed to 35, so we can do some pruning. This is not a holistic effort. It is not meant to prune every tree in town. It's not even close to what you would need to do to trim every tree in town. Again, we rely on property owners to respond and maintain our right-of-way trees. Questions on that?
but if you want to do
This
it,
was
I'd rather.
Counselor Duquette, this was, if you had any comments on arborists, I will, I've heard interest in many things on the city hiring an arborist. That's not in the public works budget. We do have an urban forester. We try to keep his time to about 10%. Our urban foresters managing capital projects and urban forestry.
Right.
The large efforts in urban forestry is working with the Urban Forestry Commission and then also permitting. So anyone who's trimming a tree or cutting a tree in the public right of way needs a permit. If we could allocate, if council wanted more time spent on urban forestry and more urban forestry efforts, I'm just sharing, we could allocate less capital project time and do less capital projects in-house and rely more on urban forestry, but
I would prefer a city arborist.
I
But-
view this line item as like if there's a windstorm.
I understand. Right.
So if you're
It's
looking, we
another
can,
time we can talk.
yeah, we can talk in the next couple of weeks if you're looking.
I do get how, I get now how it's billed to different. I see that.
yes, yes, and Parks is gonna have
And-
their own, and that, so this is for streets, that's.
And all of the different things. I'm figuring it out. I just, whenever I see arborist money, I'm like, okay. But,
Professional.
and I get it, because he doesn't have enough time to do our urban forester doesn't have enough time with this other job.
We try to keep, when we budget our capital projects, we budget our capital projects on need, and that's why you see a lot of rollover. So we look at the need from the division and what the budget is to get that project done, and then we budget that project. And then staff reacts to that project list. And we simply don't have enough staffing to support all of those projects, but we have a lot of good tools. We have staff who can manage the projects. We can rely on consultants to manage those projects. So we're finding our groove there, and we're able to do more projects than we have historically. It's just something that you balance. So if you did want to dedicate more to urban forestry, there's just less in-house capital project management we can do, but you can always consult it out or wait another year for the project.
Counselor Duquette. One of the needs that I see in our urban forestry program is more city code and planning based. And so maybe if we were going to add to a budget, public works might not be the right budget for
Right,
that.
I'm seeing that it's not all, it's in different places. I said, I'm getting it. Thanks, figuring it out.
So if you keep going, if you look at this under services, I'm sorry, nothing really to highlight. The only thing to highlight under services that really changed is thermoplastic. Thermoplastic has just really gone up in price. Those are our crosswalks. Last year, we ran out of thermoplastic and weren't able to keep up with all the crosswalk markings that we needed to. So we upped our budget for next year so we could address that backlog and take on a little bit more than we had historically.
And Holly, the roadway path supplies equipment, would that be paint as well? It's going from 15 to 25. And you don't have to answer that if you don't know off the top of your head.
The difference between services and supplies is services is when we hire somebody to come do something, and the supplies is when we're buying
Yep.
something and we're doing it ourselves. So that's all dictated by accounting regulations.
So we were hoping to do some more green paint.
We need better paint. It lasts longer. Maybe they don't.
Oh, 15 to 25, yes, yeah, that's your green, all paint, green paint, and again, just seeing costs go up.
Last.
Page 22, I think.
That's a plastic right there.
Oh, okay, I see.
The top of the page.
The bottom of page 2022 under capital equipment and machinery. We do have some equipment that we're looking to purchase, and it's not all, it would be best represented on our capital projects page, but we are looking to replace some equipment. One is a water truck. This allows us to water our street trees, do dewatering if there's an area that's really dusty, help with spill response and cleanup. It's rusted out, and we're not even able to operate our water truck at all right now. So that's
Thanks.
That's page 58, council, if you want to see those street capital.
We're also requesting to replace our backhoe. This is a piece of equipment that allows us to work on projects and excavation. Replace our skid steer. Our skid steer is 20 years old, and it's constantly we're often not able to use it because it's always up on a rack being fixed. So those three items are replacement of equipment that's aging and either past repair or is just in constant need of repair. The only thing that we're adding as a new piece of equipment this year is a hot box trailer. So you'll see in town, we do a lot of cold mix asphalt patching. That's a temporary patch. The hot box trailer would allow us to actually do hot mix asphalt patching. So you could think of our street crews being able to do more permanent, larger scale patchings. It would really come in handy for an intersection here like Division and US 2. If you've been down and you're seeing something getting potholed, and each year we come by with cold mix and it pulls back out and it doesn't hold. This would allow for a more permanent patch in that small scale area. So this would be just another tool in our tool belt for street maintenance and rehab. It's not a piece of equipment that we have today. That would be an addition. So everything else is a replacement, but that's a new piece of equipment that's being requested.
Do we sell any of the old equipment, or how does that, or do we destroy it, or that'll work?
Does go to public auction.
Are you talking buying brandy new always on
It
these?
depends on what the piece of equipment is. We always look for used first. We budget for, transparently, we budget for new and we look for used. And it really depends on what you're looking for. I would say a skid steer and a backhoe are really good candidates to look for good used equipment. Even our water tank. So we always look used first. It really depends on what you're purchasing the equipment. My answer would change based on what the piece of equipment is, but for these items, if there's a good piece of used equipment, that's our.
So we bought a lot last year, a lot requested last year.
We had a ton of equipment requested last year, and I think all of it was purchased new. And I would recommend that our snow blower was a new purchase, and
there's multimodal transport plan on this one too. It's 87,000. Multimodal transportation plan is on this as well.
This is actually what we're gonna talk about next week. This is one-time general fund money, so I wouldn't.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
all
the
right,
whole-
okay.
I mean, this is basically inside the budget, but it's just pointing out to you what
Okay.
is used for one-time money.
Okay,
Next week or next?
next.
Next
meeting.
week,
Next.
July 1st.
Yeah, July 1st.
Holly, we're
No meeting.
Not on my schedule.
we're 15 minutes behind now, so just letting everyone know where we're at time wise. Agenda, so.
Just got half a page left here.
You're doing great. You got a
Um,
lot.
So under purchase professional services, we are on next year continuing to plan for stormwater master planning efforts. So we've got $20,000 for our stormwater master plan next fiscal year.
Then page 23.
23, right in the middle.
So back to the green. Gotcha.
On page 23, under professional technical services, construction's non-capital, there's $6.5 million. Part of that is our SURA, our GN, $4.5 million to do, again, the stormwater and road rehab only project. The other $2 million is for road rehab. So each year, our street department strives to do $1 million in rehab projects to keep up with our existing condition. We don't spend $1 million each year. We just fall further and further behind. Our backlog increases and the condition of our road decreases. So we're a bit behind. We've not been spending $1 million each year in roadway maintenance. So next year is using some one-time money to spend $2 million in road rehab. We have a condition assessment that it's a tool that we look to. We enter in how much we have budgeted and it spits back recommended projects based on the funding. And again, looking to maintain the condition of our road. So this is not road reconstruction projects, it's road rehab. So we're looking at surfacing or overlay. There's about 10 different areas in town that it recommends. Bigger projects that it's looking at. There's a portion of Boyer that it's recommending to overlay, a portion of Lincoln that it's recommending to overlay, and Division as well. And there's, like I said, 8 other areas in town. So with this budget authority, we would engage an engineer to have them check this list to make sure that we've got about our design engineer who's going to do the design for the project and stamp it to make sure that we have a good scope of work here between Division, Boyer, Lincoln, and some other smaller neighborhoods, and then do some really big overlay rehab projects next year.
Yeah, and Counselor, I'd say this is my working with Holly and Sarah, this is my big push. You'll see this, the 2 million additional she mentioned is on page 58. It is taking one-time monies. It's $1.5 million, but this, as far as I can tell, this would be our biggest push to do more surfaces and road projects next year than we've done in recent memory. So this would be a big push to do more sort of Pine Street overlays, and let's call it Pine Street.
And Holly, just to kind of reiterate the city engineer positions, like this type of a line item, if we had a city engineer could potentially be working on it versus the contractor, consultant fee,
Potentially,
just to kind of weave that into the conversation. I guess.
yeah, it is very nuanced. City engineer, that could be a task for them. Historically, private development has always taken up the majority of our engineers' time. I
Okay.
saw when Dan Taddick was our city engineer and Brandon Staglin was our city engineer.
Oh.
They had very little time to do any design in-house. If private development did go down and we saw less of it, they could absolutely jump to this and
Okay.
work on it. It's just again, private development has been so demanding for so long and we don't see that it's gonna stop.
Okay.
Skill set this person would have, absolutely bandwidth.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Any questions for Holly? Holly, that was awesome. I mean, you'll have more questions, and as was mentioned, send them to Sarah and Holly, and Sarah will consolidate them. We'll visit all the questions that you have, and myself too. If you want to reach out, feel free. But if not, the chief is patiently waiting.
I just want to add one thing. So we've gone through all the purple now. That's all the proprietary funds. And we've done on the green, the general fund, we've done now streets. So now we'll move on to more general fund, Corey and police.
So my 15 minutes is over, so is there any questions?
No, we're good.
See, look at that, we're good to go next. I told Sarah we do ours just a little bit different. And I say it in the aspect, I'm not sure how many of you have had the opportunity to read through the narrative yet. I outlined some of the things we have accomplished and in the narrative, some of the goals without getting into the line items. But because I'm a little short on time, I'm gonna skip through it just a little bit.
No, you got your full time, chief.
No, it's okay. They don't want to hear me. They don't want to hear that.
Give the hint, Mr. Mayor.
And this
Page, what page?
page
Let's
15.
just go, you can jump to page 15, but I'm gonna start with the narrative, sir. If you want to go. I don't care where you pause it at.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go to the staffing level, write down the narrative. So one of the most important things I think we need to understand, especially in the police department, 90% of our funding, or 91 or 89, depending on which number you run, and Sarah would correct me, goes to our employee cost, right? So a high majority of our cost goes to our employees. So when we talk about our employees being the backbone of our agency, it really is, because that's where 90% of the funding. So when you look at our budget overall, with that understanding that 90% of it roughly goes to wages, benefits, et cetera, to take care of them. So it leaves us just a little bit more to kind of use to spend. Last year, our goal was to reorganize, restructure the police department. We talked about eliminating the captain's position, creating another lieutenant position, creating a couple sergeant positions and some corporals that get some line level guys back in the field managing our high liability areas. I'm happy to report we've accomplished that. That's done. So that's one of the things we've done. Staffing wise, over the last year and a half, you've seen some new officers come in front and get introduced to you. We've hired probably 6 new employees in the last year and a half. That's a huge undertaking to get them trained, up to speed on their own, and hope for the best when it comes to liability. All of them are doing outstanding. The last one, Officer Oldewalt, will be on his own here in the next week. So it'll be a milestone. We're still short one position in patrol that we're trying to fill. When you look at our crow staffing levels, we have 21 sworn. So one of those we don't have filled yet. We have budgeted for 3 community resource officers positions. We have 2 filled. That third position, instead of filling that third position, we're using it to hire 2 seasonal employees to offset some of those costs with the new parking stuff that's coming on board, having an increase of need for staffing in the summertime, not so much maybe in the wintertime. This year, we're going to experiment. We're going to use that one position. We're going to actually use some of that money to fund the 2 parking enforcement officers throughout the summertime for those seasonal employees. And then, of course, we have our 2 front end staff. So staffing wise, we've stayed the same, but we're adding those 2, but we haven't filled the 1. So not really a change when it comes to the budget, though. The next thing, just in the narrative we talk about, over the last several years, we've tried to really improve on our efficiency with our fleet. And we've been trying to buy more fuel efficient vehicles. And we did that with a couple of the Ford Broncos, little 4-cylinders that's worked out fantastic for investigations. We've bought 5 hybrids. Some of those have come used to us and we've had pretty good luck with them. It's really hard for us to find used hybrids or used vehicles in law enforcement. So you're going to see one of our big increases is we're looking at purchasing 6 new hybrids for our patrol divisions. We've seen some outstanding cost savings when it comes to our fuel, along with some of the other benefits that come with it. So you'll see we're asking for some money for that, which I'll cover.
And that's page 58 as well, Council.
And so, and what we'll do is when you look at that narrative, we're going to sell 6 to 8 cars that we'll sell, go to public auction to sell. So we're really just trying to rotate and get our new fleet in, which is good. One of the things that we budgeted for last year was new radios, new body cameras. That was a pretty big lift. That project isn't completed yet. The radios are here. We're using them. The body cameras are here, but we're going through the tech side of stuff where we're trying to get everything to the cloud. So here shortly, we're going to see all of our stuff being saved. It'll be into the cloud. So, but we're going in the right direction, which is really good. One of the big pushes we talked about was making sure that that we have the in-house training that we need and that we're ready to go. So we had a big push over the last year to get officers to training. And we've got Officer Little to like our EVOC. So the state of Idaho requires us to have so many hours of training in our high liability areas like EVOX 1, use of force. firearms, less lethal. The more that we can train in-house, the more savings we can have instead of having to ship someone away for our training costs. So we spent some money this year really with several of our officers to get that in-house training, which has been a huge push for us. One of the, you're gonna see in the budget narrative, I like data. We've always talked with the council about being a data-driven department or a data-driven city. And making our decisions not based off emotions, but based off data and what we need. So I threw some data in there. If there's something that you're looking at and you think, man, I'd love to see this a different way, or I'd love to see a different stat, just let me know. We keep numbers for just about everything in the police department. And so if you want to see something tweaked, or if you want to see it a different way, just ask and we'll see it. But I threw some of the numbers that I like to watch because it shows some of our trends and what's happening within our community, which is nice. One of the things I thought was interesting, our crash reports were really low this year. I think we had 125. This year, you go back to, I think it was 07, and we were all double, almost triple our numbers. So it's really interesting about our call volumes. When you look at our call volumes, which ties back to our budgeting with our employees, really can be something as simple as weather dependent. Less weather, less crashes, less abandoned vehicles, less tows. And so some of that's hard to work with and budget for. But when you look at some of those data, some of it can be affected just as easy as weather. Our call volumes and our trends are about the same overall, just hovering in just over that 6,000 mark. If you scroll, have you gone back past offenses, the black chart, that one right there. So when you look at the offense charts, it's really interesting to look because we start talking about trends. And so when you look at some of the charts, we talk about calls being up, calls being down. I gave you a breakdown of some of our more frequent calls. So you guys could just look at the trends that's happening. You can see that traffic offenses are going up. You can see some of the crashes went down, but you guys can take some time and look at that and just kind of evaluate what it is. It's interesting to see that some of our criminal offenses over the last couple of years have been going down, even though our call volume stays about the same. So when you look at down at the next one where it goes to the white one right there, the non-criminal stuff's going up. So our citizen complaints and our engagements and those activities are going up just because we're having more calls related to non-criminal activities than actual criminal activities, which is an interesting trend to kind of track. And what you see is with growth and infill and some of those things, you'll see some of that stuff happen. So we're just gonna keep skipping, and the next data, we can skip all the way down, Sarah, just to the last. Let's go all the way down to like community engagement. I think it's number 7 on my stuff. Right in there, someone was perfect. And this is where it's going to tie into the budget. Instead of going line by line, and we can if you want to. Some of the things I just wanted to highlight is what we're spending what we're asking to spend money on this year. And so we talked about our fleet. We want to buy 6 new Ford Explorers. We've budgeted $475,000. What that gets us is go ahead.
I just had it because it says that they're going to be about $79,000 per vehicle.
Yeah, so you purchase the vehicle for about that price, and then you throw the outfitting in, which is another huge chunk, and then you throw the cost to put everything in, and then our cameras, our cars, our guns, all the new stuff we buy.
Light bars and things like that.
Light bars, and so the vehicle's roughly that price range, and then it costs about $12,000 to $15,000 just to have somebody install the equipment in the cars. And that's not count buying it. So at the end of the day, we put a lot into our vehicles. The good thing is with those vehicles, we can keep them. We can buy them with 0 miles, and we'll run them up to 130 miles, give or take. One of the things I didn't cover, but we can talk about later. Some of like a car with 75,000 miles right now for us, it has about 2,500 engine hours. So that 75,000 mile car really is. You kind of double it. So it's about 150,000 miles already on it when it comes to like engine wear and tear, because they calculate it at 25 miles an hour. But so getting rid of our cars, but we can keep them for 10 years or 12 years. So the investment for us, if we do it right, is well worth it. And for the hybrids, we've had really good success with them. So I'm hopeful that we'll continue there. So, but that was a big lift for 475. 2 of the things we bought last budget, we bought a mini drone last budget. We talked about, a new camera system that we bought that allows us for pre-eventing. Those are things that we bought last year. This year, we're still budgeting for a drone. The drone that we want this year is roughly $16,000. It allows us to have some thermal. It has some heat. We get people that walk away from some of our elderly care centers in town. So they're really nice to launch for just search and rescue type stuff along with following. And then for using for crime scenes. They're a fantastic tool for us just to help with those things. Also within that same cost, some of our forensic stuff, there's some forensic evidence collection and drawing racks, what I won't get into, for $5,000. We tie back into the officer promotional, which really is in that top part of the budget, which I don't have a number, but we talk about valuing our employees. This year is going to be a pretty big hit for us financially when it comes to those that qualify for promotions through those things. And so I don't have a solid number, but that's a financial impact. Training, you look at, it goes up $6,000. Some of our general purchases where if you look down the line items, it'll talk about, but it's their ballistic vests, ballistic shields, updating our less lethal equipment that we need. 2 new line items on there is for our canine, and then just for some food items. I can go page by page if you want, but that sums it up for me.
Just a couple questions. With the drone, are you able to utilize, are you gonna also focus on night vision for like target identification, or is it purely thermal?
The cameras will come with about 3 or 4 different sensors. So we should be able to do it all.
So it'd be like all together. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for the vest for the patrol, are they ceramic plates? Or
So some of them are updating some of our ceramic plates is what that is. Some of our ballistic shields are old. One of them,
some of those can get pretty heavy.
and they are heavy. Yeah, so they're going
Random.
out. They go on over.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Just thinking of their health, their back and.
Yeah, so the ceramic plates are really they go with the plate carrier. They usually just throw them on in case of emergency. So we
Okay,
wear our
not-
ballistic vest already. We get out on a shooting call, they grab an additional vest
Okay.
and they throw the
So
plate
what they're
carrier.
wearing on their day to day, are those pretty heavy?
I wouldn't say they're not as heavy as the ballistic plate carriers,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay.
And that's why you see a lot of the old trend in law enforcement was everything was under the uniform because we didn't want to look militaristic. And you see a lot of officers now wear their vest on the outside, which is really nice because when they come back to the office, they can unzip it, take it off, set it down when they're office. So to eliminate some of that weight, but it's probably 20 pounds geared up,
Yeah.
25 pounds geared up.
I don't think people would realize how much.
It's probably easily 25 pounds.
Chief, you want to speak to sort of the long vision here? I mean, you're just getting back up to full staffing from when we were 7,000 people. Next 2 years, I mean, we're gonna probably approach 11,000 in the next year and a half. What do you forecast is there a trigger point, a ratio of patrolmen per population that we're really burning the edge right now, or what do you think you're gonna need in 2 years?
That's actually a fantastic question. So when you look at a lot of different agencies, everybody will calculate it a little different based off their needs. And I say that because using the ratio 1 per population is a really hard way to look at it, because you could have a bedroom community where that might not fit, or you have like Sandpoint, who everybody knows we're a unique little community. We're really not a bedroom community. Our town sits at, that 9 to 10,000. In the summertime, we swell up because we're the central hub for everything that happens, from events to our beautiful beach and ski mountain. So I've always argued historically with the prior mayors, when we look at those numbers, we should do it based off our call volume, linked to expectations of the council. So if we look at it as a percentage, if we want, 60% of our time to be reactive, or 70% of our time be reactive, which is responding to calls for service and those type of things. How much time do we want to spend being proactive, traffic stops, community engagement, those things tied into breaks and reports? Right now, we're about a 70% for being reactive, which isn't bad. I would argue if we started to drop where we become more reactive, then we can become proactive in doing our community engagement, would be the time that we should start levying for additional officers. I think in the next 2 years is going to be the time that depending what happens with our community, if we continue to see the growth. We were projecting a couple of years ago with the increase of all the build outs that we were going to need more staffing. A lot of those didn't happen. So when that actually starts to happen again and we see some of that growth, but I would say in the next 2 years is gonna have to have a plan for some additional staffing.
Well, Councilman Tate and Torres, just remember that in 2030, you're gonna get Sura, that's gonna dissolve or sunset, and you'll have the opportunity to maybe put some new dollars to work. So just keep that in mind.
I didn't know if you knew that I was about to say something. That's why you called my name.
No.
Oh. I appreciate all the equipment and stuff, and I do want to keep broken record, like the most important equipment is their head. And so like the services and being able to really take care of the officers, and because I know they go through a lot. So I know this is my first time doing this budget thing, but I know we're doing a strategic plan as well. So just to kind of emphasize that is also a line item, I'm sure somewhere. To
Mental health.
mental health and just after action stuff and just continuing like the wellness of the officers.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a specific line item towards that, but it's all incorporated within within our personnel stuff. And so that is something that we fully understand and that we do look at. 2 years ago, we talked about starting down that path of doing it. Our physical fitness testing was one. After you get post-certified, the state of Idaho doesn't require you to pass any more tests. We have fought years and years within the city to try to get those standards back. We have a young and healthy enough group of guys that they have bought into having not only that physical side, because I think once we're physically fit or healthy, then mentally it goes with us. So we did our second annual PT test a month ago. We all got together, we went and ran, did our stuff, and I passed most of it. I was actually really happy. I actually shocked.
Was there a social media post for that?
There was no social media for anybody to come watch.
No films.
But it was really nice because we did it being our second one. Some of the guys last year was a really big eye opener for them to say, wow, I thought I could do this stuff. And it was for them, it was like, so this year was nice to see. I would say probably everybody improved, which is fantastic. And so, it's a great time. You just talk about that physical fitness, that mental health side of it. I think it all links together.
Totally.
So I'm happy that we've started it. I'm happy we're going in the right direction. So, but yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Any questions for the chief? Appreciate it, chief. Good job. Your budget's pretty much flat. You deduct the vehicles.
Pretty close.
And I did want to point out that in the central services HR area, there is 50,000 in there for the city efficiency and public safety master plans, which will address the staffing levels. So that was talked about as strategic planning, and so it's in the budget for this year.
Awesome.
Cover that.
Appreciate it,
Yep.
chief. And you won't see the chief for a while. He is heading off on a well-deserved vacation tomorrow morning, so.
Where are you going?
Again.
Motorcycle? Yes.
Yeah. My wife and I are getting out on a motorcycle and we're gonna disappear for 2 weeks. We'll probably end up as far as Florida and back.
Oh,
Be safe out there.
Where did he say?
We're ready.
Obey all the road signs.
Super cool.
He's got a special thing.
It'll be fair.
Yeah, did they give you a little
much-
siren for your personal? Come on now.
All right, we're running a little back, but Gavin, fire department.
All right, well, I'm not going on any motorcycle trip. That's not gonna happen. First thing I want to do is just tell you guys thanks for the strategic planning portion of it and trying to get the public safety master plan built into that efficiency study. I think that's really gonna help. A lot of the stuff that I would say, Chief Coons probably already said, we have our budget. Our budget's pretty, it's, I don't want to say it's, I don't know, flat, I guess, but so we don't really, there's not a lot that we need when we do, usually it's in the capital improvement side of it. We don't have any capital projects this year. We were able to move, we get some one-time monies that we're going to use to buy new radios, new portable radios, because ours just reached end of life. And then we're able to switch around some monies inside the budget with some of the savings to get new rope rescue equipment. We're looking anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 to get new ropes, and we need new harnesses because they're out of date. Pretty much after that, it's again echoing public safety. It's all about employees. Our budget is, we use probably anywhere from 6 to 7% of our total budget actually goes to operations. The rest of it goes to personnel. So that being said, I mean, we're pretty much an open book. There's not really much else to add. Going that route. We don't have, like I said, we don't really have any capital projects this year. We are looking at doing some next year. The problem with us is that our equipment doesn't usually fit unless it's a new fire truck, or a new, buggy or something like that. Most of our stuff doesn't meet the capital projects criteria, which is, I believe it's over $25,000 and has to last for 10 years or be able to be booked for 10 years and see that. But so we try to build that in where we can. We've got a couple of grant opportunities coming up for thermal imaging cameras and some of the other things that we're trying to replace. If we're unsuccessful in that, then we'll probably be putting those in the budget next year. And it's kind of our deal. We did, Sarah and the mayor both Sarah alluded to it earlier, talked about the mayor, with the mayor about it. So we are reinstituting the volunteer program. We just went live with applications late last week, and there's already three already in the hopper, and I've fielded another 4 or 5 phone calls today. So there's definitely some interest in it. We don't see a lot of upfront cost to that. We might have to get a few pieces of gear here and there, but I think we're well within the budget to be able to do that. So
Yeah, you see that on page 17 under volunteer stipend. So that's a new thing for us. Hopefully it's gonna be part of the package to attract people to volunteer.
we want to be able to kind of help them out. We don't know exactly how it's going to look yet, but we don't want them just coming here for a stipend. We don't, you come because you're called to come do it. So that's what we're looking at. Everything that we're trying to do looks like we're gonna be able to do in this budget. We're not, trying to far reach, and although I'd love to have a drone, but I'm not gonna get a drone. I'll call him.
Sharon's carrying.
What's that?
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Sharing is caring.
We just want to get a better look at that pie from a pie.
Exactly.
Not about surprise.
Yeah, that's pretty much us in a nutshell right now. Just if you guys had any questions for me.
In all sincerity, Chief, like when the army surplus is burning, I mean, isn't it helpful for you to see where the hot spots are with the thermal?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I think they brought a drone out during the investigation, and it was just blatantly obvious. I mean, you couldn't couldn't paint a better picture, but you couldn't see it like that from the ground. So that absolutely helped. Yeah, that's great.
So, couple questions. There's a temporary wages that was added. What's that?
I'm sorry, what?
The temporary wages for $17,000.
So that was the half of a full-time employee that used to be in the budget. We moved that down to be volunteer and then to temporary. So it used to be all in salary and wages. So we moved basically a half of FTE, part of that to temporary employee, and then the rest of it to volunteer.
Okay, so it used to be in the salary.
Yes.
Okay, and
we have not hired that over the last 2 years, so it was decided that we were going
was-
to use
Yeah,
that.
it was to be able to offer the stipend to the volunteers. We just pulled it out of that money rather than asking for new monies.
right, okay, all right, and then like there's some cost changes like with automotive and then
Right, so this year,
That
what we
doubled.
did,
equipment doubled too. So what are we looking at there?
so on the equipment side, you see it goes from 6,000 up to 30,000.
No,
That-
I'm looking
oh.
at property services purchase
Page 17.
5 to 10. From 5,000 to 10,000 to 80, almost at the bottom of page 17.
Equipment services and R&M, I believe that has to do with our testing. We have to have X amount of our equipment has to be tested annually. We have to have our SCBA's have to be tested. We have to be fit tested for those every year. There's also last year we ended up getting the new compressor system that has to have a quarterly air sample test and be recalibrated every quarter. So that is probably, I can double check, but I think that's probably pretty much what's going on with that. That's just our.
And then automotive from last year's doubling, but is significantly down from the year before, so is that just
Automotive, I'm sorry.
right above the
I
line?
can barely hear about that.
19,235.
Was
It's,
10.
services, automotive, motor repair and
Right
maintenance,
above that equipment
It's
door.
like
up from 10,000. But budgeted at
19. That is, last, I don't know where we had that at last year, but that's the apparatus testing that comes into that because every apparatus has to have a pump service test. The aerial has to have not only the pump service test, but also has to have an aerial test done every year. And that also includes the actual PMs for each of the apparatus, an annual maintenance to be done on those every year, changing all the oil filters, getting it all lubed up.
And so that costs a lot more. You're expecting it to cost a lot more this year just because.
Well, that's on top of what we have for the 10,000 for the normal repairs of just apparatus. That something goes down, like we had to have brakes done last year and some
ladder truck this year.
Okay, different changes. Okay.
Thank you, Chief Painless. All right, what's next up? General fund, clerk, central services. Cheryl.
Hey,
Really quick.
Do you need a break?
bathroom break.
Sure, let's have a break. It's 3:16.
Get up and go. Get a lead.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try.
I was prepared. I was ill prepared.
You've been this
Everywhere.
This is more explanation. The next one we want. So that. All right, moving right along, 322, reconvene. All council members present, and we are moving on to general fund clerk, central service, technology, general government. So Cheryl, take it away.
okay, thank you. So the Central Services Department is a department that supports the operations of the city. So
What page, please?
this is just an overview of the. This is just an overview. So I'm gonna be going over city clerk and risk management, information technology, central services department as a whole, which includes human resources, grants, contracts, and procurement. And then as I go through there's not much to highlight in these budgets, but there are some. So we're gonna start with city clerk, which is on page 8.
The chief set the standard pretty good, so.
Oh, yeah.
Which page?
So page 8 is the city clerk budget. And on this budget, it's very much status quo. The only thing that I would highlight is the training that is higher. It's being requested $3,000 for fiscal year 27, up from $1,300 in the fiscal year 26. And that is for required trainings and courses that the deputy city clerk has to take as part of their certification process that they are currently going through. It also includes trainings for risk manager. And then, are there any questions on city clerk? Because that's really all there is in that division to highlight. No questions? Okay, we are going to move on to central services, page 9. In central services, Sarah had mentioned the efficiency study, and it also includes the public safety operations plan. You'll see that 50,000 under city efficiency and asset assessment audit. And that is being added to what is budgeted in the fiscal year 26 budget, which is 45, which will create a total of 95,000 being budgeted for that study and the public safety operations plan. Then you go down and you see the ICRIP insurance is being increased $34,000. That is the rate that they are going to be charging us for fiscal year 27.
Where is that on the next page?
That is on page 9.
Almost the bottom, page 9, the 360.
And I'm sorry, I
Oh,
missed,
368.
What was the 95,000?
The 95 is for the city efficiency and asset assessment. It shows 50,000 for fiscal year 27,
Oh, right there, right there.
but
Oh,
it's
okay.
using the 45 from this year and then budgeting 50 to make up what we're likely going to need for that.
Okay.
stuff.
Was that the Councilman Howard?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, we allotted 45,000 for
Right.
that. So 95 is a lot more than 45.
We added the two during our strategic planning, we talked about public safety, basically master plans for those. So that's including that and then whatever overage it would be for the, if there is any,
If there is any,
for the city efficiency
I mean,
and asset.
we would be doing a solicitation for that, and so it might not be that much. It might be lower, but it's an unknown.
But the money that we hope to save from learning from
Correct.
those studies, hopefully.
Yeah.
Correct, the money and,
Yeah.
the valuable information that we can get, that's really going to help with budgeting throughout the organization and our assets. It's gonna give us a much better picture to be more efficient with our dollars, for sure. Then, of course, so you're good, Counselor Duquette, going on with the iCrimp, you got that
Sorry, yep,
increase?
I just missed the 95.
It was a 34,000 increase, and then,
I've been driving those increases. I see 222 back in
so
2024. That's a huge increase
So-
over 4 years.
we have no control over the iCrimp rates. It is Idaho cities pretty much throughout the state that make up iCrimp. And it's based on utilization throughout the state organizations. It's not just utilization of City of Sandpoint.
Okay.
It's just the utilization of really the entire state. There's really not any options for insurance for municipalities in the state of Idaho. iCrimp is, and they're not going to beat iCrimp either. So I have done research into that, and
But it was nothing.
this is what it is.
It wasn't like, oh, we need to get certified in something. No. Okay. Got it.
No, not at all. And then we move over, we're on page.
Well, I just want to highlight one thing, under commissions, committee supplies, we've gone from 5 to 10,000. I asked Cheryl to do that because I feel like our committees, I know Pam has a bunch of thoughts for sustainability, and we just don't ever have the money to either send them to an event or training, whether it's urban forestry or arts historic. So I really feel strongly that, if we're gonna have these committees and commissions, they gotta have a little bit of money to either buy publications or bring someone in, an expert to speak. So that's a change there. That's doubled.
Yeah, and I hadn't gotten to that yet.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
It's fine.
Is that on page
It's
10?
totally fine.
That's on 10.
That's on page 10.
Thanks.
Sorry, I thought we were there.
Licenses, dues and subscriptions, second line from the top. You'll see that increased. That is the adding into this department, central services budget, the BECDC subscription, or not subscription, dues. That's what that increase is for. So it's just central services is now paying for that. I also wanted to highlight that under central services, we might not be there yet. No, under the telephone, central services is now going to be paying for all of the,
No, IT was.
oh, it's the IT budget, sorry, but it's kind of central services, but we're gonna go over that in IT. 2,500, you're gonna see operational supplies went from 26,000 to 2,500. That is removing the emergency operation supplies of 25,000 that was budgeted for this year, fiscal year 26. So we don't need that again in 27, so it's been removed. The mayor talked on the $10,000 for the commission and committee supplies. And then you're gonna see under capital vehicles, nothing budgeted this year. We have 40,000 for fiscal year 26. There's no pool vehicle needed. for the city, so there's nothing being budgeted for the capital. And that's the central services budget highlights. Is there any questions?
Cheryl, did you use that 40,000 last year for vehicle?
For the capital? Yes. Yes, we did. We had to replace the city hall pool vehicle due to an accident. That paid for that was in addition to what the insurance paid. That was the Equinox. We now have a Compass. And then community planning and development, we were able to purchase a pickup truck for them. That's on order right now. So that 40,000 has been spent. The truck is still on order, but yes. Does that answer your question, Council? Okay.
Thanks.
So now moving on to IT.
What page is it?
Page 12. So under IT, we have tech services, GIS. You'll see we were going from 30,000 to 36,000. That is to cover additional GIS services for the city's GIS. There's a lot of work to be done in GIS. So these are, that additional 6,000 is to cover the work that we really need to get done.
Do we have an on-site GIS person, or is that something that we consult on?
Currently, we have a consultant, a really good consultant, and well, it's a broader company, big company that just.
Innovative is the name.
Jared does work for them, but part of that is to train someone in planning, someone in public works and elsewhere, how to actually manipulate it
Yes.
and keep it up once we get it there.
And then you'll see this is the wireless, the telephone wireless going to 20,000. And that's just because we have just pulled everything into the IT budget for the wireless costs, general fund wireless costs.
Yeah,
No
we-
longer within departments.
We did the similar thing with the VoIP phone, when we did that about 8-9 years ago. Same thing, instead of divvying it out, we just put it all here, because really they're the ones managing it, and they're the ones that if it's not your, the mentality is if it's not your budget, it's different to manage something if it's somebody else's budget, if that makes sense. So anyways,
It's more efficient.
yes,
We
yep.
do the same with the GPS tracking. It's all
Yep.
under central services, under IT. So it's much easier actually managing invoices and everything else as well. And then we go to training and travel, and it's $1,000 more, but what I want to highlight with this is the innovation that the IT manager has brought when it comes to training, because there needs to be a good amount of IT training, especially around cybersecurity. We have our Laserfish repository. The previous city clerk was the expert in that. And so the IT analyst is now becoming the expert. So that includes continued Laserfish training that we need. However, it includes $900 for each of the IT employees. And that $900 gets them into a web-based training platform that has many options for training. And so for $900, there is a plethora of trainings that is available to them without any additional cost. So essentially, it's really saving a lot of money in IT training, and is gonna just be able to keep them trained. And I thought that was an extremely innovative idea that was available for information technology. So
But is it
be,
it's more than 3?
I guess, I don't know, accountability to actually getting the trainings done, because I know sometimes when you have access to that, a lot of that can fall through the cracks, but if you are signed up and you have to go to a course, then
yes.
that happens. So, do we have something in place to make sure that that is
the IT manager will identify the trainings that he wants them both to take. And then him and I meet regularly and they get that scheduled and the IT manager will ensure that that training is completed. And then he reports that back to me as well. So.
Do we know if we have it separated into a systems guy and a network guy? Like one that handles like specifically all of our like voice over IP, our internet specifically, all that networking, and then somebody that manages like the servers and everything that kind of goes in there.
They actually both do.
Okay.
The IT analyst is doing a lot of network tasks and functions. He is really valuable to that division and helping the IT manager with the network. So they both have a diverse amount of experience in networking and systems management and software. The IT analyst does a little bit less on the network administration because that is the IT manager that does the majority of that. But he does a good amount of still, the IT analyst does.
We could look at it as like the IT manager can look for like a certification called a Cisco Certified Network Professional, CCNP. And
Yes.
then the IT analyst would be looking at a certification called an MCSE, which is a Microsoft Certified Server and Expert. So then we really do have a focus on the network side and the system side. And yes, they can both do it, but one will take responsibility for one more so than the other. And then because we're going to want our network being the highest level at all possible. So that to me is more important than the system. So we should have that higher certification. And then a lot of these locations, once he gets that certification, we can rely on him a lot more heavily than we would have to on consultants for that.
Yeah, we really don't use consultants in IT. We budget a little, but
We are very lucky.
right now we have not.
You
used
found
consultants.
some great, very highly skilled, motivated IT folks that I can't say enough about.
And I can tell you too, for the certification, there is certification money in here as well. Besides Laserfish, but there is Cisco certification training dollars that are in here. And in central services, we really, and I know that's probably the case for all departments, but I can only really speak for central services. We really try on our trainings to keep it virtual. That keeps the cost down, that allows more training to take place. And IT is one of the divisions that needs a lot of training, as well as HR. And so we've really figured out how to tap into the virtual to provide that training. So there's the only on-site training in this budget for IT, potentially the Laserfish. But they're looking into is there a way to do that one virtually as well? But the Laserfish is a little more complicated, so that one may have to be on site.
So
We're talking about the budget.
We're just talking about the
Not
budget.
Technicalities of.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure that this is time to ask all the questions.
Yeah. So that pretty much, the only other thing is you'll see the computer supplies and equipment. You will see it up to 45,000. That is to replace 26 laptops and 10 monitors, docks, and sound bars. That is at today's pricing. Actually, that was at pricing when we drafted the budget. That's not even at today's pricing. That market is so volatile right now that we may not be able to do 26 replacements. It really is going to be dependent on price at the time. But that's what we're budgeting for. And that is, okay, page 13. The software and the SaaS, GIS, and STR, it's increased, and that is for the aerial imaging the near map that we are now using and for GIS, and it costs a little bit more.
For the first time in 8 years, we've actually have that year's imagery. And that's refreshed every year, so. Thanks.
And then you'll see software M365 licensing is up to $57,000, Price increase is why that is more. All of the software was increased by 5%. But this one had a little bit more because they are increasing. Microsoft is, we have no control over that. And then lastly, under IT is the capital equipment. There is a firewall, switching, Wi-Fi access point. It's a core network project that's being budgeted for which also includes licensing fees. That is for citywide, the core networking project. Any questions in IT?
Once.
Well, just real quick, I got 9, you said 3 of them for 900. It's not.
Two.
Travel and training.
Yeah.
It's 2 of them. It's
Well, it's a $900.
1,800. And then there's miscellaneous training on top of that.
Was it you have on here 3,000?
Yeah, exactly. 1,800 is for 2 of the platform trainings. And then the remaining amount of the 3,000 is for other trainings. There's a certification,
Okay.
a laser fees training on top of that. So it's not just for that platform training. And then we go to, so there's no other questions on IT. We go to page 14, general government. And
also on this one, if you take out your proposed expenditure budget by department and division, that one actually on page 2 at the very bottom has the listed out individual things that are not on, they're not detailed on the page 14. Yeah.
general government is spot, and spot is being budgeted at 145. Which is the same as fiscal year 26. It also includes facility maintenance, including major repairs for the city-owned leased facilities. And it's upfront payments for grant-funded projects that await reimbursement by the agency. So for instance, for the major repairs that might come up for our city-owned facilities, you can think about Nisha and the drainage issue that we are addressing this year. That is the gap for spot was used for fiscal year 26. That gap that we had used some of that facility maintenance money that we had budgeted for, and it was pushed over to fund spot at 145,000. And we don't know what the cost of this repair is going to be at Nisha, and we only had 6,000 budgeted to help the spot. So we'll, just to make mention that we never know what will happen at our city-owned facilities, and we have to do a drainage project at Nisha, so.
Yeah, let me just revisit all that. So last year, for those who are on council, recall that we went from 87 to 145 for
Our
spot.
fair share.
We had to use kind of one-time-ish money, so I'll call them. So we borrowed from that rental property that
Okay, right, remember.
repairs and maintenance. So this year we're holding spot flat, and we're putting that money back into the repair and maintenance because we know we have some out there. One of the things that you're all aware of is spots effectively funded through our lodging tax, and it does not appear that the hotel will be open this year, which is a huge hit from our funding source for spot, as well as some of our police and fire. And
How
so
much of a hit?
Was it about 150 we figured?
At least, yes.
150.
So also on page 60, which we'll get into this next week on the revenue side of things, but on page 60 of your handout, you have the proposed resort city tax funded allocations. This is just the current year, but next week I'll show what is trended wise and what the percentage. The park maintenance, the police and fire have gone down significantly. We kept spot at the same amount, 105 is what we did last year with it. With the 40,000 being plugged in from the new parking management plan revenues that we're getting in. So that's how that's made whole, just so you know. That parking management plan revenue has not been dedicated to anything, so that's why I put that in there for this year, just so you're aware of that too as well. So, but we will get into much more of that detail next time on day 2 of the revenues and how they're being affected. From not only that loss, but then also from we talked about of a few other things that have short-term rental decreases, because we don't do that anymore. So that's a
So
30,000
you're projecting $1 million for resort city tax this year.
for next year.
Yeah.
And it's actually, it's gonna be lower than that, but we have to over project.
Right.
And that goes down into that line item of strategic projects. We over project because if we collect more than what we actually budgeted, we have to basically reduce our levies for that. So it's kind of a
You explain that.
over, and then you put the strategic project as a basically as a holding.
Because you don't want to collect more than you budget.
Correct. And I also added, just so you know, that strategic project line, I increased that by $100,000 this year because we don't know what we're gonna get for parking revenue. So I did that as okay, and we'll talk about the parking revenue next time at the next meeting, but that's also not knowing, we're not done it yet, so. Yep. And then hopefully we'll have a good year or a good trend for the next budget in 28, to actually know how much is could be potentially bringing in. So
Okay, so spots, their cost has to have gone up in a year to run.
Yep, it sure has. And as I was mentioning on our employee, that's our challenge, is ours go up more than our new revenue as well. So it was, we're kind of, I won't say gambling, but we're hoping that the parking revenue comes in, because that's how we basically backfilled spot to keep them whole.
Yeah.
and the rest of our budget too. Some of our other
That's
budget.
an outlay too for that parking.
Yeah, no, that's after the LA. Yeah.
Is Spot gonna present
No.
at some point? Not today. They
No.
come to the council at all?
They can come and talk to the council, but because they're a service provider and a JPA, it's really, we don't let service providers come and tell us what their budget is. We can get them
As
before,
before.
but I've met with them. We've got Eric Brubaker representing the city on that board now, took over for Justin Dick. I was pretty happy that we were able to keep him flat because it was a bit of a struggle.
Or since they're servicing the Long Bridge now,
Right.
is
That's
that
what the idea
coming out of another funding source?
You know, we probably need an update from Spot. Either Eric can give it to us at his next board meeting, or maybe Spot can send us something. But I don't.
Shouldn't the transportation department be
Call it the
for that?
commissioners and say,
Well, the county does not participate in Spot as far as I understand, so.
But it's the bridge.
their residents are though, no,
The residents are contributing to Spot.
they're participating with Spot if they're using it across the bridge.
Yeah, right. Good point. Without getting too much into details, Cheryl, I know Joel has to leave at 4 o'clock sharp, so.
Yeah, that concludes central services.
All right, I will be fast. Finance, under mine is finance, and utility billing, and then also the LIDs. For finance, we are, status quo people-wise. We, really, from a cost standpoint, we have the budget, or the financial audit report is in our budget. And I project that we're going to have a audit that includes a grants. If you spend over $1 million in grants of expenditures, you are required to have a single audit. And I expect that we will be doing that this year, just from all the grants that we have got. We have not needed one the last.
Sarah, what page is finance?
Sorry, that is on
26 or 6 through
Oh,
8.
page 6 to 8.
Oh,
Is going to be the final.
Gotcha.
That's
And
right.
I've got it up on the thing too as well.
All right. Finance.
And then, so that's audited, really the only thing that has increased is banking fees. That has significantly increased over the last several years just due to banking fees. They are what they are. We went out and we didn't go through an RFP, but we did look at other pricing probably about 3 years ago. And we were pretty spot on what we were getting charged to what others were. I would say in the next couple of years, you probably go back out and look at that. There's a lot more fraud going on, so we have added more services, ACH double checks that they just provide more services to us to help us with the fraud checking and whatnot. So that's the increase in that. And then other than that, there is your postage has actually gone down a little bit due to us going a lot more electronic with our utility billings. And then let's see, going into this finance and then local improvement districts, that's on page 26. That really is a just paying for the Boyer, North Boyer water, wastewater improvement, LID 3032. Really, this could be under Public Works, but it really isn't them doing anything. It's really just making a payment on our loan that we have. And so that's why it's underneath my department. And it really is just a loan that we pay, or a loan balance that we pay every year of the principal and interest. So it's $6,800. There's really not much more to that than just making that payment until it's expired. And that is all in that. And then the next on the list is council, mayor, and legal. I'm gonna pull up, and that is gonna be page 5 and 6. Legal. Let's start, I'll pull up council real fast. There's not much change. That also underneath elected offices. Underneath council, I think the state status quo for the most parts. Yes, it did. Just the increase in medical and dental and everything else stays status quo in that. Besides printing and binding, we did add a $600 for that in there. For the council. Then mayor, I believe stays status quo as well. Let's see, there's not. That one. Was status quo, besides medical and dental as well, increase in that, but otherwise it's status quo.
Decrease meetings, not related to.
I moved part of it up to training and travel and meetings because some of it is, some of it's split between the two. And then last but not least in this is legal. Yeah, go ahead and you can.
So legal, what I would highlight is the budget is, we're on page 8. Budget's 150,000. We're actually tracking higher this year in the legal civil costs. However, that's based on some, outliers and as far as claims or the services. It's just October. So what we did is we used previous year actuals, a few previous year actuals to come up with the budget of 150. If we budgeted on actuals this year, because of it was, we're tracking higher, it would have been
We're 200,000.
closer to 250.
Yeah,
220
and-
to 250.
And with the new communication policy, I get to see all the legal bills council. I know Zach and Fonda do a great job, but I will let you know every time council members talk to them, we do get generally a line item or some charges. So just be aware that when you talk to them, you can talk to them when they're here and we can get a twofer. I don't know if that helps Zach, but and the criminal prosecution, that goes right to the county, right?
It's a 2% increase
That is
that's in the
yeah.
contract.
That's all of our misdemeanors.
All infractions, misdemeanors, and felonies, so we're all wrapped up into that, so it is a fantastic price.
Yeah, and they're only increasing 2%
Yeah.
a year, so
And some of the legal for the current year, what's going on is you have like, you're attending strategic planning, that we're not have that next year. Well, hopefully we don't. Again, hopefully we're done with that. So, you get all those, even though it doesn't seem like that's 2 full days already, that's, that increases that time, so.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of, I wouldn't say necessarily litigation, but, court outside of the normal.
I would say there's a handful of lawsuits.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Describe it that we're dealing
It
with.
seems like a lot more than what we've seen in the past, so that is some of them.
I don't think you get an attorney for 150,000, so it seems like a pretty good deal.
So I have 2 quick questions to throw out. I don't want an answer. I just want whoever is going to be answering to put it in there.
Can you put them in writing?
No. But I can speak them very quick.
Okay.
If you're over budget, oh, see, now you made me forget it because I can't write it. If you over budget, what happens to what doesn't get used? So let's say you say 150,000 for something and it comes up 140,000. And then when staff brings to the council amendments for contracts, and you say, yes, this amendment has been budgeted for, how are they budgeted for? When you set a project price and then things happen along the way and we end up with 3 and 4 amendments. These are just questions I want to know the
I
answer
think there's
for.
a couple
don't-
questions there.
Yeah, there are 2.
Yeah, so the first I can answer, which is,
I don't want them answered right now because Joel has to leave and I get
You
that.
guys can still be here. You guys can party without me.
No,
Okay.
and I want to leave. I want to go eat dinner before but whoever can answer those, probably Sarah's writing them down for me. Thank you.
What I can do is I can.
just don't
put
want
that
to
in
take
the
time.
PowerPoint, and then we can talk about that next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
all right, council members, do you have any other questions? And just for next year, is this, we won't have to go as deep. Do you like this format generally?
Yes.
Next year, and you'll get a whole nother day and then we can help you, adjust anything you want to adjust. I would recommend, staff's doing their job, but if there's elements you want to change or move, and feel free to start with me. I can help facilitate that or give you ideas or give you my opinion or whatever. So, if there's no other questions, we'll call the meeting adjourned at 3:57. Thanks,
Good
everyone.
job. 3 minutes.